Welcome to Fanfiction Audiobooks. If you enjoy the content, like and subscribing would be greatly appreciated. If you have any recommendation for novels, comment below. Spider-Man, Across the Universe. Chapter 81, The Little Dutch Spider. Although the Dutch Spider looks unreliable, the basic skills of being Spider-Man are still quite solid. This probably has something to do with his frequent helping others on the street. Although these daily activities cannot increase his experience in dealing with major events, they have exercised his ability well. Apart from his mentality, his current strength is actually no different from that of ordinary Spider-Man. After Dutch Spider joined the battlefield, Black Dwarf's condition deteriorated. The anti-Hulk armor and the Dutch Spider cooperated with each other to push the Black Dwarf to the ground with a blast hammer. Afterwards, War Machine and Falcon also arrived one after another. The four of them surrounded themselves, leaving Black Dwarf unable to fight back. However, just when they were about to completely deal with the Black Dwarf, a strong airflow suddenly came from above, and a beam of light shot from a very high altitude, shot at the Black Dwarf, and directly led him away. The Dutch Spider also shoots out spider silk and sticks to the Black Dwarf, trying to catch up. Iron Man, who already knew of the arrival of the Dutch Spider after Friday's notice, saw this scene from a distance and quickly ordered Friday to cut off his spider silk. So they could only watch the Black Dwarf disappear together with the beam of light. The Dutch Spider landed on the ground and was scolded by Iron Man. Iron Man was almost furious. If he hadn't arrived in time, would this little guy be planning to follow Black Dwarf into the enemy's base camp? Dutch Spider lowered his head, not sure whether he accepted Iron Man's teachings humbly. War Machine, Falcon, and others all looked at this scene with amused expressions. They have already heard about the pairing of Iron Man and Dutch Spider. War Machine knows that Iron Man has actually been working hard to train Dutch Spider into a new generation of Avengers, but Dutch Spider is still too young now. Not only is his mind immature, but his personality is also a little out of touch. I heard before that he was eager to express himself, and almost caused a cruise ship to sink. It was Iron Man who stood up and took the problem on himself, so that he was not held accountable. This is just speculation. In the case of the Dutch brother, he was actually suspected of obstructing official duties. At that time, the FBI was on board. Although he really wanted to solve the problem, but if Iron Man didn't arrive, I don't know how many people would die. Man, he was not held accountable afterwards, obviously someone took it down. And this person can only be Iron Man, so Iron Man is really good to the Dutch Spider. As for Falcon, although he usually performs underground Avengers missions with Captain America, they occasionally pay attention to things here. They had also speculated before whether Iron Man was preparing to train Spider-Man as his successor. After Iron Man reprimanded the Dutch Spider, they returned to the Avengers headquarters together and met Pete. Not far from Beatty, Doctor Strange was holding a handle to his ebony throat, and was considering whether to kill him directly or to drop it. B at this time has actually completed the initial treatment. While in therapy, he inquired about Friday, who operated the machine. After a scan using a regenerative cradle on Friday, it was discovered that the injuries on his body had indeed undergone some degree of treatment. Cradle of Regeneration doesn't have a readout of quantum energy though, so it's not known where the healing came from. Naturally, Bede would not explain too much. But this also proves Bede's idea from the side. His quantum energy can indeed be turned into a healing technique to treat his injuries to a certain extent. But it's not complete enough. Maybe it's because I don't have enough control over quantum energy. It may also be that there are gaps in your understanding of body parts. Thinking about it, Bede looked at the Cradle of Regeneration, and a thought came to his mind. If he had enough medical knowledge, could he use quantum energy to repair his own or even other people's bodies in real time? After all, the technology for regenerating the cradle is actually pretty much the same. The Cradle of Regeneration is to inject bio-nano repair materials into the body, make them combine with the human body, and finally create new tissues that are basically the same as the original ones, so as to achieve the repair effect. But this biological nano-repair material, to put it bluntly, is just a molecular level thing. Quantum energy may indeed be simulated. It's just that in this way, there are too many things to learn. The development of quantum energy itself requires knowledge reserves in quantum physics, and now you have to study life sciences, clinical medicine, etc. Pedro suddenly felt that he should grow a few more livers to be enough. Hi, hello, your name is Pete? You are also Spider-Man? My dear senior, my name is Peter Parker, nice to meet you, can you tell me how you became Spider-Man? And, I heard that you came from a parallel universe, so there really are parallel universes in the world. I thought the infinite world theory was just a hypothesis. If we just look at the theory of parallel universes, shouldn't we be the same person? Why are we so different? Is the hypothesis of parallel universes always wrong? Bara. When Pedro was thinking about something, suddenly something rushed to his side, and it caught him with a bang. Bede only felt a magical energy that was more powerful than Ebony Maw's mind magic coming towards him, making him dizzy. When he looked up, he saw a figure wearing a spider suit standing in front of him, looking at him while talking non-stop. In this world, who is wearing a spider suit, and who else can be so good at it? Obviously this is the Dutch spider. Iron Man came from behind, and grabbed the Dutch spider. You give me peace of mind, Mr. Bede is still recovering from his injuries. B stood up and said, the ability to regenerate the cradle is very strong, and I'm basically fine. Iron Man nodded, then looked at Bede's suit again, and said, Mr. Bede. Call me Bede, we have fought side by side anyway, there is no need for such a relationship, Bede said with a smile. Iron Man said, then just call me Tony. Bede, go to my laboratory and make a new suit for you. I think it's not very convenient for you to do it now. Pedro spread his hands, let me tell you in advance, I don't have any money. War Machine on the side said, don't worry, B, the man standing in front of you is a very rich man. Iron Man said, it's just a battle suit. Can you leave now? If we can, we will go immediately. Yeah, not bad, Bede moved around. The injured left rib felt numb, and he knew that it should be the result of the continuous interaction between the bionano repair material and the bone, skin, and flesh. In other words, his physical injuries are recovering at an extremely fast speed. Seeing that Bede acted like nothing serious, Iron Man also heaved a sigh of relief. So he took Bede out of the medical room and came to a laboratory not far away. War Machine followed suit. While making the suit, I told them about what happened in Wakanda. Another chapter is late, don't wait. End of this chapter. Chapter 82. Chapter 82. About half an hour ago. The donut-shaped spaceship disappeared after sending Ebony Maw and Black Dwarf here. When it appeared again, it was already over Wakanda. At the same time, two more insect-shaped alien battleships broke through the atmosphere and attacked in the direction of Wakanda. The people on Bede's side who were originally prepared to immediately support Bede were stunned. So the group of people who had originally planned it split into two groups. One faction is the executive faction headed by Doctor Strange and Black Panther. They all advocate continuing to implement the original plan, go to New York City, and cooperate with the three of Bede to strangle Ebony Maw and Black Dwarf over there. Of course, Doctor Strange's purpose is probably because there is his artifact there, and there must be no room for failure. The Black Panther came out of confidence in Wakanda's technology and concern about Bede. Black Panther is an honest person, he will do what he thinks is right. Bede saved his life, so he naturally tried his best to protect Bede. The other faction is the conservative faction headed by the apes. The man-ape doesn't care about Bede or the Eye of Agamotto. He only knows that Wakanda is his home. Now that aliens have invaded their home, they naturally have to give priority to protecting their home. He even had some dissatisfaction with Black Panther. This battle should not have started on the land of Wakanda. It was only because of the Black Panther's inexplicable sense of responsibility that Wakanda became the main battlefield. But why doesn't the Black Panther know this? But he wants to found a country and make Wakanda change from what it used to be to a truly civilized country that has some exchanges with the outside world. What he needs is more than just planting the Wakanda flag in LHG. On the one hand, they need to show off their own force to deter those with ulterior motives. On the other hand, it is also necessary to show their benevolence and virtue as their capital for advancement. Of course, there is another reason for making this decision, which is their confidence in Wakanda's strength. If Wakanda can't win this war, then even if they tie the others together, they can't win it. At this moment, a portal was opened. Opposite the portal is the Supreme Sanctuary in New York City. This door was opened by the king. But standing in front of the door was Bruce Banner. From Dr. Banner's mouth, they learned a lot of new information. For example, he and Thor were attacked by Thanos and his Dark Legion on an Asgardian refugee ship. Loki died, one eye of Thor was crippled, and even he was beaten back to his original form. Before Heimdall died, he sent Dr. Banner back to Earth to inform them of the incident, and chose the Supreme Sanctuary, which has the strongest magical atmosphere on Earth, as the transmission location. As a result, the New York Supreme Sanctuary staged a drama of a fat green man falling from the sky. After roughly understanding the situation, Wong did not dare to neglect, and immediately sent Dr. Banner to Wakanda. Afterwards, the king returned to the Supreme Sanctuary. After confirming the crisis of the situation from Dr. Banner's mouth and understanding the seriousness of the matter, Doctor Strange and others did not intend to continue watching. They planned to go to the Avengers headquarters first, and regardless of whether the plan succeeded or not, they would bring the 3-bead back first. Then they will have a real fight with the enemy in Wakanda. Anyway, they have nothing to lose if the plan fails. However, when Doctor Strange prepared to open the portal, he found that it could not be opened at all. It turned out that Thanos' spaceship emitted some kind of wave, disrupting the surrounding space, which was equivalent to blocking the entire space. In this way, even if he can open the portal will be affected by space chaos and become unstable. This instability can have some serious consequences. In desperation, Doctor Strange had no choice but to leave Wakanda with a few supporters. As long as you leave the range of spatial chaos, you can open the portal normally. The border of Wakanda is still at war at this time. In the sky, the hatches of 2 insect-shaped space carriers opened wide, and countless Chitauri swarmed out. They all hold some cluster weapons and laser weapons in their hands. However, these weapons do not actually pose any threat to Wakanda's energy barrier. After attacking for a while, the Zeta Swiss returned to line up near the bug-type space carrier. Then, a light suddenly lit up at the top of the 2 insect-type space carriers. 2 4 to 5 meter thick clustered laser beams blasted towards Wakanda, hitting the energy barrier and causing ripples. This was obviously fired by the main guns of the 2 insect-type space carriers. It was not only powerful, but also very durable. Black Panther frowned and looked at the 3D image in front of him. The image is a perfect simulation of the scene outside Wakanda. He stretched out his hand and slid it on the edge, and several values appeared on the edge of the 3D image barrier. We can't let them continue to attack, as it will weaken the overall strength of the energy barrier. Black Panther said, "Let the nearest leopard tooth cannon focus its fire and knock them down." Yes. Near the Wakanda energy barrier, several giant vibranium spears protruded from a hillside, pointing towards the sky. Then, dazzling white lights shot out from their heads and converged on one of the insect-type space carriers. An energy barrier also appeared on the surface of the Chitauri insect-type space carrier. But this energy barrier is obviously not as strong as Wakanda's, and it cannot withstand the turret made of giant vibranium spears. But a few seconds later, the worm-shaped space carrier was penetrated and fell from the sky. Many Chitauri soldiers who had stayed outside fled the area where the mothership crashed. Later, they received the death order to attack and attacked the barrier. In the hall, the Black Panther issued an order. The first squadron of the guards, let's go, long live Wakanda! Long live Wakanda! The voices of Wakandan warriors echoed near the barrier. Then, these warriors came to the barrier, formed a tight formation, and fired lasers upwards. The giant web of lasers instantly tore the Chitauri soldiers in front into pieces. High in the sky above, on a hovering ring-shaped spaceship, General Deathblade and Proxima Centauri stand side by side. Darkya Proxima stared down, and said coldly, "We must detect the strength of this barrier, collect sample data, and prepare for the general attack of Lord Thanos. Let the Chitauri increase their attack power." Whoa! Another Chitauri spaceship on the edge OB also began to move forward, releasing Chitauri soldiers at the same time. As soon as these soldiers appeared, they rushed towards Wakanda's energy barrier as if they were desperate for their lives. This order also had a certain impact on Doctor Strange, who were preparing to leave the space chaos range from here. Thanks to Wandeo Ziobewen for the Kidian coin reward. End of this chapter. Chapter 83 After the First Battle. Chapter 83 After the First Battle. The Chitauri army is so crazy, and anyone with a discerning eye can tell what they are planning. But this is a conspiracy. There is no other way than to kill these Zeta Swiss soldiers as much as possible and destroy their spaceships. In response, one Wakanda general had an idea: why didn't they do the opposite? Since the Chitauri army wants to get their barrier readings, they take down the energy barrier in that area. Fight with the Chitauri army with real swords and guns. Wakanda's military says it has no fear. Although this proposal is somewhat risky, it does have its practicality. First of all, after careful scanning by Wakanda technology, we can see the Thanos Legion currently near the Earth, and now the main force has gathered near Wakanda. The circular one is obviously the main ship, and the other two Chitauri-type motherships are proper tools. Therefore, they concluded that as long as the two Chitauri motherships were destroyed, this wave of tentative attacks by the Thanos Legion would be over. Secondly, through the short firefight just now, Wakanda has completed the achievement of 1 kill. Now there is only a Chitauri insect mothership and a few hundred Chitauri soldiers in the sky. There is a guard stationed there, and with the temporary addition of some reinforcements, it can even turn from defense to offense. In this way, you can protect the energy barrier readings from being obtained as much as possible, repel incoming enemies, and even gain information about the opponent's weapons and equipment by attacking the enemy. It is simply killing two birds with one stone. This plan was passed after the Panthers considered it a little bit. A royal escort was then dispatched. At the same time, the two guards near there were both drawn to half their strength. A total of 300 troops, assisted by two giant vibranium spear turrets. Doctor Strange and others followed the royal guard, boarded a few airships, and arrived at the first-line battlefield on the edge of the barrier in a few minutes. At this time, the battle here has begun. The originally integrated energy barrier was withdrawn with a big hole. Teams of Wakandan soldiers formed a fighting team of 10 people. They held up their cloaks with their left hands, activating individual energy barriers, and kept shooting into the sky with vibranium spears in their right hands. Every attack fired by the vibranium spear is no less powerful than a rocket. Even if the Zeta Swiss soldiers are wearing thick armor, once they are hit, they can only be thrown off the aircraft. However, Chitauri soldiers also have their own advantages, that is, they have extremely high air superiority. Wakanda's air force was abolished by the Leopard in the battle between the Leopard and the Black Panther a few years ago, and it has not been fully formed since then. This resulted in their air force being basically zero. Most of the ones that can be dispatched now are unmanned intelligent aircraft and the like. Qualified pilots are too expensive, and the Black Panther will not be released before effective combat power is re-established. Relying on air superiority, the Chitauri soldiers roared across the battlefield, firing strings of bullets from time to time. Doctor Strange and others also quickly joined the battlefield. However, they did not love to fight. Instead, with the assistance of a higher quality royal guard, they highlighted the front line and escorted them all the way to a place 1 kilometer away from the Wakanda energy barrier. After arriving here, Doctor Strange noticed the changes in the surrounding space. Then, he opened the portal and came to Beat and the others. After Doctor Strange and the others left, they received the news that Ebony Maw and Black Dwarf had failed, that Ebony Maw was captured by the enemy, and that Black Dwarf was also slightly injured. Thanos sent the message of retreat. At this time, the Zeta Swiss soldiers have basically been sent out. No one knows how much data they collect except themselves. The defense level of the ring-shaped main ship is also not comparable to that of the Chitauri-type mother ship. Even the concentrated energy emitted by the giant vibrating spear fort was blocked by the opponent. In the end, they could only watch helplessly as the ring-shaped main ship disappeared into the Earth's atmosphere. After listening to the whole narration, B also had a little understanding of the current situation. At this time, he has returned to Wakanda again. On the whole, this operation was quite fruitful. According to statistics, they killed more than Chitauri soldiers in this battle, plus 2 Chitauri insect motherships. This has almost caught up with the record of the US team in Iron Man in New York City. Of course, except for the last nuclear bomb. Excluding the big nuclear bomb that Iron Man risked his life to reward, the total number of real kills in the block is almost this value. It can be seen that Thanos is by no means ignorant of them. On the contrary, he should already have a lot of understanding of the forces on the Earth. The space disorder method against Doctor Strange's portal, the Zeta Swiss soldiers' suicide attack on the barrier, and so on. And what Wakanda has shown is richer than Beatty's cognition. At least, not like the street fights in the movies. It seems that reality is reality and movies are movies, and they must not be confused. Movies may lack some expressiveness due to various reasons such as funding and the director's imagination, but in reality, they can be said to surpass several civilizations on Earth. It is absolutely impossible for Wakanda in this era to stretch its hips as much as shown in the movie. As for Thanos, the ultimate boss of Marvel at this stage, his power is by no means as simple as shown in the movie. Peter gave himself a shot in the heart. No matter what happens in the future, we can only refer to the so-called original plot as a reference and cannot directly bring it in. Otherwise, there may be unexpected situations due to some reasons. This is not just playing a game, you can also load files and start over. Of course, the biggest gain of this battle is actually Ebony Throat. As Thanos' #1 think tank and Thanos Kobold strategist, Ebony Maw has a very high status in Thanos' entire army. If we can get some information from his mouth, it will increase the chances of winning the next Infinite War. It's just that Ebony Throat is obviously a tough guy. No matter how they used various interrogation methods, they all gritted their teeth and persisted. In the end, Doctor Strange decided to try magic. There is a hypnotic magic in Karmatage. However, when he used magic to influence Ebony Mouth and just asked a few words, Ebony Mouth's head suddenly exploded with a bang. The strong Ebony Throat actually committed suicide. End of this chapter. Chapter 84 The Beginning of Infinite War. Chapter 84 The Beginning of Infinite War. Ebony Maw's death made Beat and others regretful. If Ebony Maw, who was the 4th general of Obsidian, died, then they must be happy. After all, they are in a hostile relationship, and the other party is rushing to kill them. But with Ebony Maw captured, it was even more valuable. They could have squeezed that value out. For example, Thanos troop distribution map, battle plan, etc. As the chief think tank, Ebony Maw must know something. But now, I only got a few pieces of news. First, Thanos now has 2 Infinity Stones on hand. They are the Power Stone obtained after destroying a civilization called Xandar a week ago, and the stone he snatched from Thor after capturing the Asgard spaceship not long ago. Space Gem. The second news is that Thanos did not come to the Earth now, but went to a place called the Land of Nothingness. It is said that the collector there has a gem of reality. These 2 points are exactly the same as Bede's previous prophecy. This made Bede slightly relieved. At least in the general direction, reality is not much different from the movie. So if nothing else happens, after getting the reality gem in the void, Thanos will also use Nebula to blackmail Gamera and get the soul gem on the planet Vormir. As for the fact that Thanos collected the other 4 infinite gems as scheduled, it is no longer something they can stop now. Bede asked, even if it is Doctor Strange, it is impossible to open a portal from the Earth to the void or the planet Vormir. The maximum range of his portal is still only near the inner heliosphere of the solar system. And even with the technology of Iron Man or Wakanda, there is no way to get to any of these 2 places before Thanos. Not to mention, they don't even know where these 2 places are. Bede has a way, as long as you find the Guardians of the Galaxy and use their spaceships, you can naturally find and arrive relatively quickly. But if nothing else, the Guardians of the Galaxy volume should have had one by now. Because Ebony Maw's information actually came from a day ago. According to the plot over there that has not been affected, that is, the original plot, the Guardians of the Galaxy should have started their own actions now. The cause of the incident was that they received a distress signal from the Asgard spacecraft, and then were hit by the dying Thor. Xingju and Thor first staged a bad match to connect their feelings. I saw Thor, a player from Party A, said, Thanos killed my brother. Party B player Xingju said, after my mother left, I was taken away by my adoptive father and went on a tragic journey. Then my father killed my adoptive father, and I killed my father. The rest, referee well, Star-Lord is a little bit worse. Party B player Xingju +1 point, leading temporarily. Seeing that the situation is not good, Lei Shen, a player from Party A, has a desire to win. He said, my younger brother was adopted, and my mother was killed. My younger brother exiled my father, tried to usurp the throne, and established himself as king. My father died during the exile, and my sister also killed many people in her hometown. And let the whole of Asgard go to ruin. Not long ago, my brother was also killed by Thanos, and now I am the only one left. Others, referee, I didn't expect there to be such miserable people in the world. Star-Lord, Abba. Party A player Raytheon won unconditionally. Then, moved by Thor's tragic story, they decide to help him. At the same time, because Gamera is the adopted daughter of Thanos, she knows Thanos's behavior, so she persuades Xingju and others to help Thor deal with Thanos. As a result, the Guardians of the Galaxy were temporarily split into 2 parts. Part of it is Rocket Raccoon and Groot, who take Thor to find the space dwarves. It is said that they are dwarves, but they are actually taller than anyone else. Thor wants to use the space dwarf's forge to upgrade his equipment, from Hammer God to Axe God, and seek revenge from Thanos. On the other side, the remaining Star-Lord, Drax, and Mantis of the Guardians of the Galaxy head to the Void to collide with Thanos. Then Gamera will be taken away, and Star-Lord will perform his bubble gun fame. Scene. Not to mention over there, although Bede can roughly guess the situation over there, they can't affect it. Anyway, Thor should come to Earth to participate in the final battle after upgrading his equipment, so there are not many problems. As for the Guardians of the Galaxy, without Doctor Strange, Iron Man and Spider-Man this time, they should not dare to go to Titan. Perhaps they will also come directly to Earth. From Ebony Throat's mouth, in addition to the 2 recent news above, they also unexpectedly learned a long ago news about Thanos. This happened even before his alliance with the Chitauri. At that time, the only people who acted with Thanos were the 5 generals of Obsidian. At that time, Thanos, although aware of the existence of infinite gems, did not pay attention to them, but was content to launch a devastating attack on life planets like Gamera's hometown. But gradually, he realized that it was too slow to use this method to bring balance to the universe. Later, they met a man named Lore Speaker, who was the previous generation owner of the Mind Stone. Lore Speaker collected many myths and legends from across the universe and showed Thanos the authenticity of the Infinity Stones. But when he did this, he certainly wasn't just showing off. Because Lore Speaker held the Mind Stone for a long time in the past, and was abandoned in an abandoned dimension by the power of the Mind Stone. But he was naturally unwilling to do so. So he got greedy for Thanos' body, and wanted to transfer his consciousness into Thanos' body. Fortunately, Nebula and Gamera saved him. Afterwards, Thanos killed Lore Speaker and realized from Lore Speaker's memory and knowledge that collecting all the Infinity Stones is the only way to achieve his goal. This is the reason why Thanos launched Infinite War. Thanos made the Mind Stone obtained after killing Lore Speaker into a Mind Scepter and gave it to Loki, asking Loki to get him the Space Stone, but not only did Loki fail to get the Space Stone, he also took Thanos' mind. The gem was also stolen, no wonder Thanos wanted to kill him. Loki absconded with the money, which led to Thanos personally taking action, and then there was the current Infinity War. Through the news revealed by Ebony Throat, everyone finally figured out the whole story. Although this seems to have no practical effect on the current situation, it prevents them from fighting another inexplicable war. Taking a step back, even if there were no infinite gems, this war would be unavoidable. Because Thanos' purpose is to destroy life. Sooner or later, he will come to Earth. End of this chapter. Chapter 85. Chapter 85 Little Fan Get. At the celebration banquet that night, there were 4 more newcomers. 2 of them are Vision and Wanda, who have just finished removing the Soul Stone. After 2.5 days and nearly 60 hours of hard work, Princess Shalai finally successfully performed a brain replacement surgery on Vision. Now, he has completely gotten rid of the Mind Stone and has become an independent individual. But what is surprising is that his ability has not been weakened too much, and he is still extremely powerful. B didn't know what the reason was. But he also gained the friendship of Vision and Wanda. Another newcomer is Dr. Banner, who has returned from space. For this so-called smartest person in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, there is no Fantastic Four in this world. Pete is still quite interested. He is also a PhD in physics. But at this time, Dr. Banner was talking about his wonderful experience in space with Iron Man, the US team, Black Widow and other old friends, and expressing his concerns about Thor. Moreover, at this time, Bede was being pestered by the remaining newcomer. Dutch Spider had been chatting beside Bede since the beginning of the dinner, asking about his identity and abilities. If it was before this ambush, Bede even thought that this was the task assigned by Iron Man to the Dutch Spider. But now this situation should be that the Dutch Spider is really curious. Bede actually likes the Dutch Spider quite a bit, and although he resents his stubbornness, it's more of a deep love and regret rather than a real dislike. So in the face of his question, he also endured his temper and revealed some not particularly important things to him. The 2 of them were chatting happily for a while. Through conversation, Bede discovered that real Dutch spiders are actually quite lovable. Lively and active, and not like a boy of this age. In fact, compared to his peers, he is already very good. It's just that everyone regards him as a superhero, and he has added a lot of burdens to himself, so he seems a little eager for success. In fact, the way Iron Man handles it is the best. Before the Dutch Spider has the ability to stand alone, let him study well in school. If he likes to be a good neighbor, be a good neighbor to him. When he matures mentally, that is, when he goes to college, or even after graduating from college, maybe that's when Iron Man really starts to train him. It's just that no one expected that Iron Man died before the Dutch Spider really grew up. The big tree that protected the small tree from the wind and rain suddenly collapsed before the small tree could grow up. This forced the small tree to withstand the violent wind and rain in advance. Those who are malicious towards him, those who are malicious towards Iron Man, and those who covet Iron Man's inheritance all find Dutch Spider after Iron Man's death, making him hard to guard against. But now, such a thing should not happen. After all, in Doctor Strange's prophecy, it seemed that he was the one who did it in the end. Bede was speechless about this. The Dutch spider also admired Bede. Because Bede told him that he prevented a multiverse crisis in the ultimate spider world, this is tantamount to a sky-high action for the Dutch spider who has been making small troubles. Because of this, Bede gained a little fanboy. It didn't take long before Bede's status in Holland Spider's mind was already catching up with that of his Aunt May and Mr. Stark. In the end, he graciously invited Bede to visit his house if he had the opportunity. The Italian-style barbecue pie made by his Aunt May was delicious. Bede thought of the amiable Aunt May in the Ultimate Universe and nodded. I will definitely go if I have the chance. After seeing off the Dutch Spider Queen at last, two people were welcomed by Bede's side again. A pair of siblings. T'Challa the Black Panther and his sister, Princess Shuri. The purpose of the two is also obvious. It was to thank Bede for his help in T'Challa's illness. After clinking glasses with Bede, Princess Shuri said gratefully, "Thank you so much. If you hadn't said it, my brother would have kept it a secret until..." As she spoke, she gave T'Challa a hard look, looking angry. T'Challa smiled bitterly on the side, took a sip of wine, and did not dare to speak. After his sister found out about this matter, as soon as today's battle ended, he was dragged into a small room by her sister for a good meal. "It's okay to just scold," she still cried while scolding. "It's not the kind of heart-wrenching crying that makes you want to live or die, or the kind that almost doesn't cry and just sheds tears silently while talking. It was this kind of crying that left T'Challa completely helpless." He reflected for a moment and felt that if he had concealed his illness until his death as he had originally thought, then his sudden death might have had some chain reactions on Wakanda, and even pushed Wakanda towards a certain direction. Abyss. But he also has his own considerations. No one can say when his condition will suddenly become serious. After all, he himself has already used Wakanda's cutting-edge technology to inquire about it, but he has never found a medical treatment. Even if he told Shu Li and the others in advance, in the end it would just be a few more people who were worried with him. Of course, that's all over now. While the fighting was in full swing outside during the day, the artificial intelligence Glio was still making and synthesizing special effects medicine. The final miracle drug is of course not finished, but a first version has been produced and a full data analysis has been done to prove its effectiveness. After T'Challa took it, he conducted relevant tests again. This time, the state of the disease was basically undetectable. Of course, this is not cured, but all the viruses in the blood source have been temporarily suppressed by this first version of the special medicine. This also means that, at least for a short period of time, T'Challa no longer needs to worry about his sudden death. In a small way, it saved T'Challa's life alone. In a big way, this saves the future of all Wakanda. So both T'Challa and Princess Shuri are very grateful for what Bede has done. They came this time to present him with a certificate of friendship from them. Proof of friendship? Bede wondered, wondering what it was. Is it something like honorary citizenship for life in Wakanda? We in Wakanda have a thing, we say the second, and no one dares to say the first, said Princess Shuri with a confident smile on her face. As soon as she said this, Peeta's eyes suddenly widened. What is the best thing about Wakanda? Energy weapon? Energy barrier? No, neither. It's Genjin. Everything else is built on the basis of Genjin. So, this so-called proof of friendship is some kind of vibrating weapon. I'm not feeling well, so I'll work hard to post the next chapter around 2 or 3 o'clock as much as possible, so you don't have to wait. End of this chapter. Chapter 86. Chapter 86. I've been losing my mind lately because my body is in a weird slump, maybe it's affecting my brain. There is not much to say, it will be on the shelves at 12 noon today, so the next update will be at noon. As for updating a few chapters, let's see how much I can code at night. Anyway, I will post as much as I code. Finally, thank you all for your company and support during this time. You are the source of motivation for me to continue writing and the motivation for me to open the coding software every day. Thank you. P.S. Push a fan article written by a book friend. The title of the book is Hello Spider-Man, I am Peter the Guardian of the Future. If you are interested, you can go and have a look. End of this chapter. Chapter 87 Black Panther's Gift. Chapter 87 Black Panther's Gift, please order first. With 3 points of surprise, 3 points of excitement, 3 points of curiosity and 1 point of nervousness, by fan statistical chart Di Hui followed T'Challa and Princess Shulai, temporarily left the banquet hall, and walked to the scientific research building next door. The two siblings did not notice Bede's complicated emotions. Along the way, Princess Shulai was still chatting with Pete. Besides the fact that Peeta had saved her brother, she was also curious about his plan for Vision. Because normally, without knowing Wakanda technology, from the perspective of modern medicine and biology, the success rate of this plan is infinitely close to zero. Only Wakanda, which has ultra-precise instruments that can scan out neuron endings, can do this. And this requires Bede to have a good understanding of Wakanda's technology. Mr. Bede, how did you come up with that method? To be honest, I didn't think of it at first. It was only after they told me that I had a further idea. Bede showed a little embarrassment on his face. Actually, this is your plan, Princess Shulai. I saw it in the quantum channel, so I said it in advance, so I don't understand it in essence. Relying on plagiarized knowledge, pretending to be 13 in front of the original owner, his skin is not thick enough yet. That's such a pity, Princess Shulai said with a trace of regret on her face. She originally thought she had met a like-minded person. As a precocious genius, she has shown extraordinary wisdom since she was a girl, and became the chief researcher of the Wakanda Scientific Research Center in years. Her intelligence is evident. But it is precisely because she is too smart, coupled with her noble status, that it is difficult for her to make friends of the same age. I don't know what kind of existence the quantum channel is. That is a field that our Wakanda technology has never set foot in. After a little bit lost, Princess Shulai quickly focused on another matter. Okay, Shulai, I can't tell you about this kind of thing. T'Challa patted Princess Shulai on the head with his hand, and pulled her over. She had just moved her entire body closer to Bede's side, making it difficult for Bede to walk. Bede didn't heave a sigh of relief until she was pulled away. He smiled slightly and said, actually, there is nothing to say. There is no objective sense of up, down, left, right, front, back, and front in the quantum channel. This is somewhat similar to the feeling of being in the universe. Bede said while thinking about his feelings in quantum space. Princess Shulai listened attentively and nodded slightly, as if she was recording all the information. After getting out of her brother's class, she also wanted to study things in the quantum field. During the conversation between the two, they came to the building of the Wakanda Research Center. The Scientific Research Center at night is still brightly lit, and there are many Wakanda scientists busy inside. If you look carefully, you can also find some alien objects on many experimental tables. These were all instruments dismantled from the destroyed Chitauri mothership during the day's battle. Among them are the power core of the Chitauri mothership, the generator of the external energy barrier, the armor worn by the Zeta Swiss soldiers, the melee and long-range weapons of the Zeta Swiss soldiers, etc. Basically, there are samples of everything that can be captured. Here it is. Thanos wants to use suicide attacks to obtain Wakanda's data, and Wakanda can naturally do the opposite, using the obtained devices to analyze their technology, so as to achieve countermeasures. B and the others skipped the perimeter and went straight to the inside. The internal defense system is more than a step higher than the external one. Just the door of the laboratory made of vibrating gold can make the eyes of all invading enemies black. After walking in here, the space becomes more spacious and the sense of technology also rises sharply. There are all kinds of strange things in the cylindrical transparent cabins, which are probably some researches of Wakanda. In fact, this laboratory, except for a small number of scientific researchers, is not accessible to ordinary people. But T'Challa had even taken him to the king's secret base, so there didn't seem to be anything strange here. At this time, Bede's eyes did not stay on these insignificant things nearby. Even if one of them is taken outside, it may sell a huge amount of wealth that ordinary people cannot have in a few lifetimes. This is because, not far in front of him, there is a cylindrical container, and in the container is quietly placed a spider suit with a cool metallic luster. In terms of shape, it is almost exactly the same as his previous modified version of the advanced battle suit. Even the body shape is generally the same. The only difference is their material. This tone, this texture, appeared in Wakanda again. Obviously, this is a set of spider suits made of vibrating gold materials. Or, it should be called, Genjin Spider Battlesuit. Black Panther actually wants to give himself a vibranium spider suit? T'Challa said, it's very difficult for Genjin to change the shape after the shape is completed, but for us, as long as we don't leave the container, we can make some more detailed adjustments. So, B, if you have any requirements, if so, tell me now, and Shulai will help you adjust. Princess Shulai had already walked to the cylindrical container, pulled out an operation panel from nowhere, looked at Pede, waiting for his instructions. B was speechless for a moment. He thought that the rich and powerful Wakanda might give him some vibration gold weapons as a reward. But he never thought that the other party would directly create a Genjin battle armor for him. T'Challa saw Bede's hesitation, and persuaded, Pede, I hope you don't reject us, this is just a little thought from us to our friends. Yes, you saved T'Challa and Wakanda, it's just a little gold, so don't refuse it. Princess Shulai said aside. Just a bit of vibrating gold? B was a little speechless about this kind of local tyrant's speech. Vibration gold is extremely precious, and the market price of 1 gram of vibrating gold has reached $1. According to the analysis of some data he read before traveling, the cost of the Black Panther suit is about $80 billion, except vibrating gold materials, there are many other technical bonuses. And the vibrating gold spider suit in front of him, just from the appearance, the cost will not be lower than the Black Panther suit. As for the market price, you see, if the Black Panther suit is put up for auction, can it be bought for 80 billion? It is not a problem at all to increase the price by 4 or 5 times. The same goes for this vibrating gold spider suit. Maybe that's not intuitive enough. Remember the flying aircraft carrier of SHIELD? The cost of that thing may be less than 80 billion. In other words, people use 80 billion as their base, and the Black Panther runs with 80 billion. And now, he also gave 80 billion to Bede, and asked Bede to join in this frenzied action. It's quite sudden, but it's so exciting. End of this chapter. Chapter 88 Nano Gold Spider Battlesuit. Chapter 88 Nano Gold Spider Battlesuit. Seemingly worried about Bede's refusal, Princess Shulai took out a test tube and said, well, we just want to study quantum energy and further equip T'Challa with a better healing plan, so we need more quantum energy. How about buying energy for $1 million per tube? The last sentence is not only about Pede, but also about T'Challa. T'Challa nodded. I have a deep understanding of the mystery of the quantum realm after this time, and to tell you the truth, I am also very interested. As he said that, he turned to Bede and said, so, if possible, how about we talk about cooperation directly? Our side is regarded as a capital investment. You provide quantum energy and count technology as a share. We set up a research institute to study quantum energy and explore the quantum field. The main purpose is the scientific research group. As for this suit, it is not only a gift from me as a friend, but also a security guarantee for you as a shareholder. After all, if you lose it, we have no other way to obtain quantum energy. Princess Shulai smiled and said, in that case, I'm afraid the people of the Presbyterian Church will not let T'Challa go, this is a business worth at least hundreds of billions of dollars. Okay then, Pedro nodded and accepted the gift from the siblings. Now that the words have come to this point, if he continues to be coy, it will be because he is thinking too much. Think about it too. Genjin is invaluable to the outside world, and even has a price but no market. But for Wakanda, which owns a vibration gold mountain, it is said that the vibration gold mine is still a renewable resource. A set of vibration gold battle suits is really nothing. Perhaps to them, compared to the vibranium material, what is more precious is the technology used in the vibranium suit. Afterwards, Bede began to make some detailed adjustments for this vibrating gold spider suit. The overall style still follows the style of his previous high-end battle suit, but the texture of vibranium metal makes its tone cooler. For some reason, Pedro found it quite pleasing to the eye. The surface of the battle suit was first treated with a layer of matte, and then it was resprayed with ferrous metals with reference to the classic red and blue color scheme. These non-ferrous metals are said to be an associated mineral of vibranium. Although they do not have as good properties as vibranium, the advantage is that they can be ground into powder and used as pigments to color items or add some the feel of the parts, protective properties, etc. After the coloring was completed, at first glance, it looked similar to Bede's previous suit. Oh no, there is a difference. Because Genjin couldn't make a pure white color, Pedro simply changed the huge spider pattern on his chest. So, it is normally a golden spider pattern. But when the energy absorption mode of the vibrating gold suit is turned on, the golden spider pattern will gradually turn purple. At the same time, many of the spider web patterns on the spider's battle suit were also golden. Red and blue color matching, golden texture. This makes it look like a combination of advanced battle suit and black gold battle suit. Maybe it can be called blue and gold battle suit? Later, T'Challa introduced the vibrating gold spider suit to Pedro. First, it's a nano suit, just like T'Challa's own Black Panther suit. Usually, the nano-vibrating gold particles will be contained in a gemstone pendant of a spider-shaped necklace, and the gemstone necklace is very beautiful. It was what Pedro always felt strange in his heart. This is the habitual difference brought about by status. For a king like T'Challa, this was a daily embellishment, so naturally he didn't think anything of it. But for Bede, who was an ordinary man not long ago, it was always a bit awkward to wear a gem the size of a pigeon egg on his body. The main reason is that he is not the kind of person who likes to show off and doesn't like to be high profile. Fortunately, this is a necklace and can be hidden in clothes. When needed, you only need to press the button on the necklace, and the armor can be automatically combined. No, it is armed with a battle suit. That's pretty much what it means anyway. The second is the functional aspect. In fact, Bede's previous suit also had a similar ability, but that was to convert part of the mechanical energy during his exercise into electrical energy, part of it to maintain the consumption of the intelligent auxiliary system in the suit, and part of it to be converted into chemical energy and hidden in the suit. When needed, this part of the chemical energy will be converted back into electrical energy and then released, producing an effect similar to an electric shock. And now this set of nano-vibrating gold spider suits, its energy storage mode is based on the energy-absorbing effect of vibrating gold. Utilizing the principle that vibrating gold can absorb kinetic energy, that is, mechanical energy, the absorbed kinetic energy is stored in the suit, and can be released at one time when necessary. Compared with these two methods, each has its own advantages and disadvantages. In the former, because electrical energy is converted into chemical energy that is easier to store, it can be stored for a longer time. The latter, because kinetic energy is still kinetic energy in the end, is not stored, but is only temporarily absorbed. This makes the kinetic energy of these adsorptions can only be released in a short time, or it is allowed to disappear. But there are benefits too. Vibration gold is a very strange metal. It is not as radioactive as those elements with large atomic weights. Its electrons don't move, which means that vibranium's molecules are always at a temperature of 0 degrees Kelvin, or absolute zero. This makes it extremely lacking in motion at the molecular scale, absolute zero means that time stands still in the physical sense, so it is physically incapable of transmitting force. That's why it's the most durable substance in the Marvel Universe. In a word, it is unparalleled defense. And when it is applied to an attack, because it does not transmit force itself, it will hardly consume the absorbed kinetic energy. In other words, if a missile hits him, he can gather all the kinetic energy in the missile, including the missile itself and all the explosion, and then use his fists or body to hit it out. True missile punch. This is a bit like the legendary stunt called Star Shift, or the borrowed force in Tai Chi. Belongs to the type that gets stronger when strong. Finally, there is the weapon system of the nano-vibrating gold spider suit. In T'Challa's own Black Panther suit, there is actually no weapon system. The only thing that can be called a weapon is probably the retractable claws on both hands. But they didn't equip Bead's nano-vibranium spider suit with claws. Spiders use claws or something, that would be too weird. Then, Princess Shulai had a sudden idea. Since you don't have claws on the hands, let's add spider legs on the back. As a result, there are 4 more spider legs on the back of this nano-vibranium spider suit. Made of the same vibration gold material. Just one word. Cool. It's just that much after a night of coding, but counting the free chapter posted in the early morning, it should be considered a small increase. After that, try to keep words per day. End of this chapter. Chapter 89 The Leopard Spider. Chapter 89 The Leopard Spider. I saw Princess Shulai tap lightly in front of her face, and the 4 vibrating gold spider legs stretched out from the back of the nano-vibrating gold spider suit in the cylindrical container. The image of the spider suit now made Beat a little surprised. Have you guys paid copyright fees to Stark? Now the image of the nano-vibrating gold spider suit is quite similar to the steel spider suit prepared by Iron Man next door for the Dutch spider. There is a big difference in color matching and body shape. The Dutch spider is only 173 centimeters tall, while Beat is 180 centimeters, so he is half a head taller than the Dutch spider. In terms of stature, perhaps because Beat was already an adult, he also got the spider gene enhancement, and he looked stronger than the Dutch spider. The figure of the Dutch spider is somewhat like that of a small black spider, and both of them are not yet fully grown. Perhaps even mutants will have different manifestations according to different age groups. Princess Shulai focused on the only weapon on this nano-vibranium spider suit. She said, although they are all vibranium, there is still a big difference between the vibranium used to make these spider legs and the vibranium used to make the suit. Beat asked curiously, is there any difference between vibrating gold? Princess Shulai nodded. She grabbed at her wrist, and some images were thrown out of Kamoya beads, suspended in front of B. Actually, there are currently 2 kinds of vibrating gold, and a synthetic metal of vibrating gold. Decades ago, a batch of vibrating gold accidentally flowed out of Wakanda. Some scientists synthesized a new type of superelastic alloy by combining vibrating gold, steel alloy, and a certain catalyst. Later, it was made into Captain America's shield. This metal is what they call adamantium alloy. Adelman alloy is denser than vibrating gold, so it is more lethal, and vibrating gold is more suitable for defense because of its characteristics. Peter nodded slightly. He knew about this. He even knows that in a parallel universe where mutants exist, there is an unnamed Wolverine whose whole body is made of adamantium. Princess Shulai continued, after we discovered this adamantium alloy, we tried to get its formula. However, the catalyst needed in the formula should be just their accidental acquisition, and it is not reproducible. After further expanding their research ideas, we created a new kind of vibranium, vibranium B. Different from traditional vibrating gold B cannot absorb vibration waves, but can emit vibration waves with unique wavelengths. This vibration wave can destroy the molecular bonds of most metals including Edman alloy, making it becomes liquid. Therefore, the spider legs on this suit have 2 attack modes. In the melee mode, the intelligent system in the suit can be used to attack according to your actions. In the long-range mode, the ends of the 4 spider legs can all be launched. Vibration wave. The maximum effective distance of the attack is 200 meters, the closer the distance, the stronger the attack effect. Theoretically speaking, at about 100 meters, most metals can be destroyed, at about 10 meters, Edmund can be destroyed in an instant alloy. But you have to pay attention. Although Genjin B is also very strong, it does not have the ability to absorb kinetic energy like vibranium, so it is very brittle. Try not to use it as a defensive weapon. BD nodded again and again. Anyway, he didn't understand the principles or anything like that, so he just needed to figure out how to use it. In short, the battle armor is a shield, good at defense, the spider leg is a spear, good at attack. Do not attack with a shield, nor defend with a spear. Everyone does their job. After introducing the abilities, he asked Bede about some details of the armor. After another hour, this set of battle armor finally completed the final debugging. Princess Shalai walked up to Bede holding a necklace and handed it to him. Just when Bede was about to take it, Shalai winked playfully and put the necklace back. Why don't you give it a name? Apita was stunned for a moment, and replied, then why not call it the leopard spider medal? This is the medal that witnesses the friendship between Spider-Man and Black Panther. Leopard spiders are one of the spiders of the genus wolf spider. They are quite common in Bede's hometown before crossing over. They like to eat pests such as aphids and corn borers. Neither in the ultimate spider world nor in this world, Bede has ever been to a country that is very similar to his own hometown. This is because in his heart, his hometown will always only be the one before he traveled. Whether it's Time-Space Spider-Man or the chapter of Leopard Spider, they are all his thoughts on the past world. He didn't say what he really meant. But T'Challa and Shalai are obviously very satisfied with his naming. T'Challa laughed, stretched out his hand and patted him on the shoulder, and said to Shalai, Shalai, stop making trouble, and give Pede the chapter of the Leopard Spider. B took the Leopard Spider chapter from Shalai and looked it over. At his request, the style of the necklace was chosen to be as understated as possible. The chain body is just an unpretentious black coil. The material is relatively rare. It is a combination of some kind of composite fiber and special metal produced in Wakanda. It is also polished and other treatments on the outside to prevent high temperature and rust. The general sharp weapon also cuts continuously. In addition, this thing still has an identification function. Once authenticated, apart from Bede, not even T'Challa and Shuri can even think of opening it again. Security can be said to be pulled to the extreme. He put on the leopard spider badge and tapped the gem pendant on the necklace under the expectant gazes of the T'Challa siblings. Wow! The gemstone pendant glowed with a little light, quickly covering his whole body. In a breath, a heroic close-fitting armor appeared on Pede. Bede was surprised to find that although this set of armor was made of vibrating metal, its air permeability was not bad. Some kind of air circulation device should be installed on the suit. The comfort level is also very good, it is even fine-tuned according to Bede's close-fitting clothes. Well, if you wear this, you don't need to smear baby powder on the joints, right? Bede recalled one of the little tricks Spider-Man had to learn told to him by the middle-aged Peter Spider when he was in the Ultimate Spider world. For Bede, the only downside of this suit is probably its quality. This set of nano-vibrating gold spider suit has a total weight of about 30 kilograms. Compared with the real steel suit, it is naturally much lighter, but for a Spider-Man who needs to fly over the walls, it seems a little too heavy. Of course, this is obviously a bit too hypocritical. Because the advantages of the nano-vibrating gold spider suit are enough to cover up some of its shortcomings. End of this chapter. Chapter 90, The Land of Nothingness. Chapter 90, The Land of Nothingness. While Bede was testing his new battle suit, something was happening in the deep space of the distant universe. A place of nothingness. This is a planet transformed from the beheaded head of the ancient celestial god group in the universe. It has the size of an asteroid. After years of development, a city has formed inside it. And the owner of this city is a great existence called the Collector. His real name is Thalia Dewan, and he is a member of the mysterious race that existed at the beginning of the universe, the Elders of the Universe, like the 5 creation gods of the universe and the Infinity Stones. He not only has great strength, but also has the eternal lifespan of immortality. This status of his gives him a very high status in the universe. First, Odin sent people to send ether particles, reality gems, and then the Guardians of the Galaxy sent cosmic spirit balls, power gems. This fully demonstrates his status. But at this time, the bustling land of nothingness in the past has been turned into ruins. When Thanos came to the land of nothingness on his floating throne, what he saw was a wasteland without any breath of life. Boom! Thanos patted a building casually, and the already crumbling building crashed to the ground, kicking up dust all over the sky. Thanos' face sank like water. Things are not going well. The Deathblade general who went to the Earth reported that Ebony Maw was captured, Black Dwarf was injured, and 2 Chitauri motherships and nearly 1,000 Zatori soldiers were damaged. The subsequent losses were planned, but the previous losses made Thanos frown. Ebony Throat is a rare one with a good brain among his subordinates. Without him, Thanos would have to add a lot of troubles. In addition, he was sent to the Beta 35 galaxy to monitor a superstar report of a woman on Earth with extraordinary power, saying that the woman on Earth seemed to have given up on the Beta 35 galaxy, which was in the fiery water, and suddenly changed direction to come to the Earth. The ability of that Earth woman is a headache even for Thanos. It was just to prevent her from showing up when she was not necessary, so he secretly sent one of his 5 generals, the supergiant star, to a galaxy far away from the Earth and without a direct stargate to do things. Superstar is a superhuman with many psychic abilities such as telepathy, mind control, teleportation, and memory stealing. Her mind control ability can even control those very powerful superpowers. Facing some civilizations that are not easily conquered, Thanos will send her out to secretly manipulate some important characters in the civilization by using her mind control ability, causing them to attack each other and fall into internal friction. This time it was about the same. The Beta 35 galaxy is a civilization whose civilization level is close to the 2nd level, which is much higher than the Earth civilization. However, this civilization does not have as many superheroes as the Earth civilization, let alone many supernatural events. After the Beta 35 galaxy developed to a certain level, it left the parent star, and several different forces settled down on their respective planets. Externally they act like a whole, but internally they are wary of each other. But no one wants to take the initiative to provoke a dispute, so everything is peaceful. Until the intervention of superstars. She secretly controlled 2 of the planets into a state of war and attacked each other. Afterwards, the flames of war quickly spread to several other planets. For a while, the Beta 35 galaxy was in chaos. Some people even used neutron-killing weapons enough to plow the entire planet in a hurry. Fortunately, Captain Marvel arrived in time to prevent the extinction of life on that planet. Since then, Captain Marvel has been busy trying to restore peace to the forces on these planets. She took action to punish a few guys who took the initiative to start a fight. I thought it was over. But how could a superstar make her wish come true? She hides in the dark and uses her mind to control some people from time to time. This makes the Beta 35 galaxy have no big wars, but constant small battles. If it develops according to the normal situation, the superstar will keep hiding in the dark and drag Captain Marvel until Thanos completes all plans. But now, Captain Marvel received a call from Nick Fury in advance. She figured out many things at once. Why can't the rebellion be completely quelled? Why are star-destroying weapons always ready to be used? Why is the relatively peaceful Beta 35 galaxy suddenly plunged into war? It turns out that Thanos was behind everything. Captain Marvel made a decisive move and destroyed all star-killing weapons that could be found on the entire Beta 35 galaxy that had a devastating blow to planets, and destroyed their interstellar battleships, temporarily trapping several civilizations on their respective planets. Then, he rushed towards the Earth without stopping. Superstar tried to stop her, but Thanos stopped her. Thanos knows that Captain Marvel is not something a superstar can fight. He ordered the superstar to abandon the deployment over there, and lead his men back here to participate in the final battle. And the third one is not going well, that is right now. Naturally, he has heard of the collector's name. In order to come here, I have made a lot of preparations. Only after gathering all the power gems and space gems did he dare to come to the collector to negotiate conditions. I didn't expect to come here. The city of the Voidland was destroyed. The collector is also missing. What about his reality stone? Thanos was a little depressed, and sat down on a stone beside him, waiting for the search results of his subordinates. Behind him, Dark Legion soldiers swarmed out and entered the ruined city, looking for them. After an unknown amount of time, there was a commotion in the distance. Thanos looked up and saw one of his Dark Legion generals walking towards him quickly with a box in his hand. "What did you find?" Thanos asked. The general knelt on one knee and said with some excitement, "Your Excellency Thanos, we found this in the ruins." "Hey!" Thanos' casual eyes moved to his hand. After a second, his demeanor suddenly changed. "Hey!" He grabbed the box. It is a strange material that is not gold and not wood. It is obviously closed, but it seems to be able to see the red particles coming out. Ether particles. Thanos was overjoyed. He clenched his fist and squeezed hard. The box containing the ether particles was crushed by him, revealing an irregular mass of red substance that was not even known to be gaseous or liquid. When the mass of matter was about to dissipate, Thanos stretched out his fist with the infinite glove and placed it on it. "Call out!" Ether particles are sucked into the infinity gauntlet, and finally a red gemstone gradually condenses on a certain groove. It's the reality stone. Looking at the 3 gems on the glove, Thanos clenched his fists. He was finally one step closer to his goal. End of this chapter. Chapter 91 Captain Marvel Superstar. Chapter 91 Captain Marvel Superstar. Somewhere in the deep space of the universe beyond the void, 2 figures are watching below. A figure shrouded in darkness said, "This is your plan? Just give him the reality gem." The collector with punk-style white hair stood aside, looking at Thanos who was so successful. A smile appeared on his face. "This is my plan." The figure shrouded in darkness asked, "What did you see through the reality gem?" The collector said, "The gem of reality, of course I have seen reality." "Okay." In a distant star field, a slender figure, shrouded in a mysterious force, was flying through the universe at a speed close to the speed of light. At this moment, her speed suddenly dropped, and her figure suddenly stopped in place, hovering in space. Who? A thought came out and expanded in a certain direction. But there is no information sent back from that direction. Captain Marvel's face turned cold, he clenched his fists, his figure turned into light, and he swooped over there. Boom boom boom. Asteroids exploded wherever she passed. Finally, at a certain moment, she saw the enemy. It was also a woman. She has light blue skin and is wearing a silver uniform with a hood and cape, and she is looking at Captain Marvel in horror. "Who are you?" Captain Marvel suddenly stopped in front of the woman and asked. She felt hostility from here just now, so she suddenly changed course. Judging from the current situation, this hostility comes from the woman in front of him. But she didn't know her. The woman gritted her teeth, and a strange energy wave came to Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel immediately felt her head sink slightly, but because of her extremely strong mental immunity, she quickly got rid of this effect. "You still want to control me?" Captain Marvel frowned slightly, and then she thought of something. "You are the subordinate sent by Thanos, right?" The matter of the Beta 35 galaxy should also be planned by you. The superstar gritted his teeth and said, I don't believe the gap between us is so big. With that said, a turbulent wave-like mental power swept towards Captain Marvel. It's an enemy and not a friend, so let's kill you. With precautions in place, Captain Marvel directly ignored the superstar's mental attack. She clenched her fists and began to exert a slight force on her body. Captain Marvel is not a religious man. The powerful power gave her the capital to ignore everything. Now that he was in a hurry to get back to Earth, he naturally didn't bother to communicate too much with the person in front of him who was his enemy for some reason, let alone collect any information. The next moment, she turned into a flash of lightning, instantly spanning the distance between the two, and appearing in front of the superstar. Ripples suddenly appeared in the space behind the supergiant. Immediately afterwards, a burly figure jumped out. Facing Captain Marvel's attack, which was enough to destroy a planet, he just raised his hand wearing the Infinity Gauntlet, and at the same time, the Power Stone on the glove lit up. Bang! The two fists collided violently. A huge shock wave raged out. With the place where the two fists collided as the center, the surrounding gravel, meteorites, and even asteroids shattered. Thanos! Captain Marvel retracted his hand, looked at the round head like a purple potato in front of him, and said, Carol from Earth, don't interfere in my affairs. Thanos also looked at Captain Marvel and said calmly, even with some faint threats. In fact, there was already a storm in his heart. This was a blow blessed with a power gem, but it didn't even knock her back. How strong is her strength? Captain Marvel frowned and said sternly, Your behavior seriously violates the natural laws of the universe, and you still want me to stay out of it. Hey, do you think you are the guardian of nature? Thanos sneered, I'm sorry to tell you that what I am doing now truly follows the natural laws of the universe. Everything is about to threaten this universe. All the people, things, and things will disappear after this. And this universe will also move towards a happy future because of this. You'd better save your nonsense to fool your subordinates. Captain Marvel scolded angrily, and the figure suddenly rushed towards Thanos. Thanos, however, clenched his fist. Behind him and the superstar, a rapidly shrinking wormhole appeared at the same time, engulfing them. When Captain Marvel's attack arrived, it only shattered a piece of asteroid and did not hit anything else. Captain Marvel gritted his teeth and understood that this was the power of the Infinity Stones that Nick Fury had mentioned. Thinking of the 3 gems she just saw in Thanos' hands, Captain Marvel felt a little anxious, and immediately stopped staying here and headed towards the Stargate leading to the solar system at full speed. On the other side, Thanos is taking back his superstar and letting her take over the work of Ebony Throat, preparing to go to the Earth and get the remaining 2 infinite gems. At the same time, he himself returned to the land of nothingness again, used the reality stone to create a trap, and waited for the fish to take the bait. Star-Lord and others, who were unaware of the changes that happened here, were still on their way here in the spaceship. As everyone knows, what awaits them will be a doomed failure. On the Earth. After Thanos' men retreated, the Earth regained its peace. But everyone knows that this is the calm before the storm. The next day. In a training room in the Kingdom of Wakanda, Pete is familiarizing himself with his nano-vibrating gold spider suit. In another room, Captain America and Black Panther were exchanging martial arts. Iron Man stayed with Vision, and he mobilized a large transport plane from the Avengers headquarters to prepare a temporary batch of war mechas to deal with the upcoming war. There are also Black Widow, Hawkeye, etc., who are also busy with their own affairs and preparing for the next war. However, it is Wanda who makes Bede look forward to the most. As the famous Scarlet Witch in the Marvel Universe, Wanda at this time is actually quite immature in the application of magic. Under normal conditions, it may not be able to keep up with 1/3 of the Scarlet Witch in Strange 2. That is to say, her chaos magic is extremely strong, which makes her have the combat power of the first echelon today. This morning, when Pedro met Doctor Strange, he made a joke with him. Although Captain Marvel can't come back in time, there is actually another way for them to win this infinite war, and that is to teach Daegu to Wanda how to use chaos magic effectively. After losing Ebony Maw, the man with magic, the combination of Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch can be put directly on the high-end battlefield and become the main force against Thanos. End of this chapter. Chapter 92 Infinity War. Chapter 92 Infinity War. Time passed by minute. When the detection satellite discovered the first UFO that appeared near the Earth, everyone had finished their morning exercises and gathered again in the War Command Hall in Wakanda. Looking at the light spots appearing on the 3D projection, everyone's faces became ugly. Every point of light is a bug-type mothership-level spacecraft. Captain America asked. T'Challa nodded, his brows knitted together. The light spots that appeared on the screen were far beyond their expectations. At a glance, there are at least 30 ships. According to the situation of the U.S. team fighting against the Chitauri army in New York City a few years ago, the full number of people on a Chitauri mothership is at least 1,000. Like the scale of only 100 people who came to Wakanda yesterday, it is an obvious death tactic. With the aggressive look like today, that is the real outburst. So there is no doubt about the number of people, it must be full. There might even be some other preparations that they don't know about. At this time, Shu Li's expression changed and she walked forward quickly and said, "Abnormal data just invaded our monitoring satellite. They are trying to hack into our satellite." Almost at the same time, Iron Man's voice sounded. "My satellite was hacked too, by the Chitauri. They want to fight an information war with us. No matter what, counterattack them." Iron Man said, "On Friday, follow those abnormal data to counterattack." "Yes, sir," Friday replied. Shulai said, "Glio, the same goes for you. You defend and I attack." "Okay, princess." Griot also replied. Vision also stood up, "Then let me get involved. A battlefield without gunpowder marks the beginning of this real war. If someone could see into space at this time, they would be able to find that there are several Chitauri insect-type motherships parked in the outer orbit of the Earth, cooperating with the Stark Group satellites, Wakanda satellites, and other countries in the inner circle. The satellites are facing each other from a distance. Many satellites and space stations in other countries have been hacked due to inadequate technology. Fortunately, Iron Man and Shu Li brought 2 artificial intelligences and an intelligent life called Vision to attack, not only stabilizing the situation, but also quickly launched a counterattack. Boom boom boom. Seeing that the information war was unsuccessful, the Chitauri decided to flip the table. They first manipulated several armed satellites, turned on the fire control system in them, and launched the missiles in one brain. The targets were the Stark Group satellites and the Wakanda satellites. However, the two are not compatible. The Stark Group has a total of 3 satellites, one of which is mainly responsible for information transmission and usually provides big data support for Iron Man at this time. It opened up its huge computing power and constructed a data shield to resist Chitauri hacking. At the same time, it also attacked the Chitauri insect mothership under the separate control of Friday and Vision. And the other 2 are armed satellites. One of them is equipped with countless armed drones. Once the command is given, it can be launched at the fastest speed and enter the interior of the Earth to assist in combat. The other one is equipped with some long-range missiles and has an extremely high combat radius. On the other side, Wakanda's configuration is even more luxurious than that of the Stark Group. After all, Iron Man can only launch satellites in the name of individuals or groups, and he has to give others an account. As a country with independent sovereignty, Wakanda can theoretically launch as many satellites as it wants. What's more, Wakanda's technology is more advanced than other countries. Unless Wakanda reveals itself, who can find Wakanda among the satellites flying all over the sky? When the other armed satellites were manipulated to open the fire control system, the Stark Group satellite and the Wakanda satellite also responded simultaneously. Missiles collided in space, and the shock waves generated seemed so small in front of the huge Earth. So much so that people standing on the Earth can't see the scene at all. Perhaps only with an astronomical telescope can we observe these light spots that suddenly light up and disappear in low Earth orbit. This is not finished. Several artificial intelligences teamed up and soon made breakthroughs in both the information battlefield and the material battlefield. The hacked space stations and satellites were recaptured one by one, and even a Chitauri mothership was counter-invaded. Then, the invaded insect carrier was seen accelerating and crashing into another nearby insect carrier. The scene of the two motherships colliding was like Mars hitting the Earth. This change frightened other Chitauri-type motherships into retreating to the side. However, the battlefield here is just a local battlefield that has nothing to do with the overall situation. More Chitauri motherships and spaceships broke into the atmosphere one after another, pressing towards Wakanda. They have entered the atmosphere and are expected to arrive above us in 7 minutes. Shu Liwi reported. The outermost circle of Wakanda, near the energy barrier. Bede and T'Challa stood side by side under a building. Above their heads is a spear-shaped weapon nearly 100 meters long. A giant vibranium spear turret made of vibranium B material. Prepare to take on the enemy. T'Challa shouted loudly after hearing the message coming from the headset. Roar! There were neat shouts from all directions. Giant vibrating gold spear forts are ready to go. Bede pressed the leopard spider seal on his chest, and nano-vibranium particles poured out of it like water, quickly flowing throughout his body and completely covering him. After a few minutes, call out! Suddenly there was a piercing cry in the distance. The tip of a giant vibranium spear turret lit up, and an energy beam shot into the sky. Boom! There was a loud bang in the sky, and then a Chitauri mothership fell sideways and crashed into the energy barrier over Wakanda. This barrier was like a substance, causing the wreckage of the crashed Chitauri mothership to slide downwards. This scene seems to be a prologue, kicking off an interstellar war that affects half of all life in the universe. Then, the sound of giant vibranium spear turrets being fired came from all directions. Some Chitauri motherships were shot down, while others escaped. Not to be outdone, the opponent launched shipborne weapon attacks hitting the Wakanda energy barrier. But Wakanda's energy barrier is like a solid rock, which is unshakable despite the wind and rain. SHHHHH. Several spaceships with strange shapes like obelisks descended from the sky and smashed hard in all directions of Wakanda, surrounding the entire northern plain of the Kingdom of Wakanda. End of this chapter. Chapter 93 Infinity War. Chapter 93 Infinity War. Pedro looked serious. He had no way to participate in the silent battle in space and the battle in the air behind him near the ground. But now, his battle has begun. Sure enough, as the doors on one side of the obelisks opened, countless ferocious monsters swarmed out. These monsters do not have their own names. They are biological weapons created by Thanos with genetic engineering, and they are also one of the main members of the Dark Legion. If you really want to call them, maybe call them Dark Acolytes. They don't have their own thinking patterns, and they don't even have the emotions that living things should have, such as fear and happiness. The purpose of their manufacture is to serve Thanos, the Maker. From birth to death. Compared to them, the Chitauri are a truly alien intelligent race. It's no wonder that Thanos would place the Chitauri in the sky and the Dark Acolytes on the ground. 3 different battlefields have been formed: outer space, near ground, air, and ground. The outer space battlefield is handled by Iron Man's artificial intelligence assistant Friday, and Wakanda's artificial intelligence Gryo. The place was now calm as the Chitauri mothership retreated. But both sides are still probing and attacking each other with information. If they can find the weak point of the other party's defense, I believe they will definitely invade the other party's system in the shortest possible time. So here, although it is calm, it is full of murderous intentions. Surrounded by Iron Man's battle mechs, Iron Man and War Machine joined the second battlefield. As one of the few superheroes with high-altitude combat capabilities, they took the initiative to take this task. Of course, they are not alone. On the ground, 70% of Wakanda's air defense facilities have been activated, aiming at the sky and firing continuously. However, it is precisely because of this that Wakanda's already insufficient troops were diverted away a lot. In the end, the number of troops available on the ground may be less than 3,000. Fortunately, there are many heroes on the ground. Basically, every hero can fight 1 against 100. If you round up, there are nearly troops. Pete looked at the dark attendant ocean in front of him, looked at T'Challa, and said, "T'Challa, then I'm off." T'Challa nodded, "Brother, be careful." The two shook hands. Then, Bede jumped down from the fort. Different from the chaotic battle in the original plot, this time, they were well prepared and formulated a relatively complete battle plan. Superheroes, who are high-end combat power, are divided into several groups. Each group consists of about 3 people, forming a basic combat unit. Pedro was put into a group with the Dutch Spider and the Ghost Girl. Thanks to Bede, T'Challa assigned 2 vibrating gold laser short blades to the Ghost Girl, the ones used by Dora's escort in Black Panther 2, I don't know what it is called, but it should be it is Genjin technology. The Ghost Girl is an expert in stealth assassination. She can use a laser blade that is only half a meter long, which is much easier than using a vibranium spear that is 2 meters long. This vibranium laser blade is Wakanda's latest technology and is actually still in the experimental stage. Shulai took out the ghost woman because she didn't even have a decent weapon as Bede's bodyguard. Combined with the ghost girl's ability to appear and disappear, this weapon may become a nightmare for some people. As for the Dutch Spider, it's purely Iron Man's request to Pete. Dutch Spider wasn't very familiar with the others, and Iron Man himself wasn't around, so of course he didn't trust him. After all, this is a real battlefield, not a small fight. You could really die if you're not careful. Iron Man has personally experienced Bede's fighting power. A one-on-one fight killed one of Thanos' generals, and the Black Dwarf over there, he and Captain America couldn't get it done in such a short period of time. Although he himself was seriously injured, he was only healed by the regeneration cradle, and after a night, he was alive and kicking again. Friday also told Iron Man that even without the need for a regenerative cradle, Bede's injury recovery speed would probably only take a few days to fully heal. This shocked Iron Man. That is to say, he is not a biological scientist, otherwise he would really like to get some samples of Bede and take a closer look at his life structure. Considering various reasons, Iron Man entrusted the Dutch Spider to Pete. Peter readily accepted. Although the Dutch Spider is unreliable in the eyes of most people, his fighting ability is beyond doubt. At the time of Avengers 3, he had already fought several battles with Thanos, who had a few Infinity Stones, and he was more than enough to deal with the soldiers. And it's quite reassuring to have such a brave teammate by my side, which is better than someone who just likes paddling. Mr. Bede, is it our turn? After Bede jumped off the turret from a height of more than 10 meters, as soon as he landed on the ground, the Dutch Spider came up. At this time, the Dutch Spider is wearing a love suit tailored by the godfather of Iron Man, a nano-steel spider suit. When Bede and him stood together, the two of them wore similar styles of battle uniforms, and they immediately felt like a team. Bede nodded, "Peter, Ava, we are ready." "Okay." Dutch Spider shouted excitedly, and the soul of Chuyuer burned brightly. The ghost girl just glanced at Bede lightly, drew out her 2 vibranium laser short blades, and walked behind Bede. Although she didn't speak, the meaning was already obvious. "I'll be responsible for the frontal attack in a moment," Peter assists, and Ava waits for the opportunity, Bede ordered. The Dutch Spider and the ghost woman nodded. Then Bede looked to the other side. "Captain Grace, please provide fire coverage in a moment." Aubrey Grace nodded. She is the vice captain of the Dora Guards. Logically speaking, as the Black Panther's royal bodyguard, she should be guarding the Black Panther. But the Panthers sent her out, leaving only Okoi, the captain, and some team members for personal protection. The rest were sent to Bede's side and were responsible for the offense and defense of this area together with him. "Get ready!" Pedro shouted, not only to inform the Dutch Spider, the Ghost Woman and April Grace, but also to the Black Panther T'Challa. "Open! Open the number 17 barrier in the northwest region!" T'Challa ordered. Then, the barrier in front of Bede and others slowly opened. The same scene happened in several other places. Almost at an interval of 3 or 4 kilometers, a barrier will open, allowing the dark servants to sneak in. On the other hand, the soldiers on the Earth's side opened fire in unison with the help of the fortifications built in advance. The roaring heavy machine guns and howling shells caused the dark servants to suffer great losses in an instant. Thanks for the low-key book friends 10,000 starting point reward. P.S. Tell me about the latest update. Because I have been typing in the middle of the night before, and I have some physical problems after a long time. I have been adjusting my work and rest time recently, but it has not been fully adjusted yet. After 2 days of adjustments, the update will be upgraded to Saturday, and then some additions will be arranged. End of this chapter. Chapter 94 Infinity War. Chapter 94 Infinity War. Hoo. The cries of the dark servants came and went. But it didn't look like a scream. It was a ferocious and maddened roar. This biological weapon, born for killing, showed its ferocity at this moment. Regardless of whether it was swept into 2 pieces by machine gun bullets, or only one body was left after being blown up by shells, as long as the head is still there, the opponent will try to drill in and crawl forward. It wasn't until he took his last breath that he fell to the ground and lost all movement. Their performance made Bede unconsciously think of a creature that theoretically only exists in fantasy. Zombies. Zombies who rely on instinct to move are probably the scene in front of them. They will only stop if their heads are completely smashed. The scariest thing about zombies is that they are contagious. Once infected, there is basically no cure. Fortunately, these dark servants are not zombies. What if a superhero who is not human to begin with is infected? Pedro shuddered. He put aside this terrible thought and concentrated on dealing with the enemy in front of him. Bede picked up the rifle that lay aside. It is said that Wakanda purchased this thing from outside, because Wakanda itself does not use this thing. These extra weapons were prepared because it was unknown how long the battle would last. Bede took aim at the gun, pulled the trigger, and a burst of bullets shot out. The powerful force, coupled with the ability of the Genjin battle armor to counteract kinetic energy, made the muzzle of the rifle in his hand motionless. The bullets almost refer to where to hit, and many bullets hit the same part. He specifically picked the heads of the dark attendants to beat, and wanted to see if these things were like zombies, they would die if they were hit on the head, or they were more weird existences. He quickly locked onto a dark attendant. The running speed of this dark servant almost reached 60 meters per second, and it was difficult for ordinary people to even catch them. But in the eyes of Bede, who had received spider gene enhancement, every move it made was completely visible. The muzzle of his gun closely followed the action path of the dark attendant, the speed of movement, the angle of the muzzle, the distance between the two, the wind speed, all kinds of information flashed in his mind. Today, 3 bullets were fired at the forehead of the rapidly running dark servant. Pfft! The dark attendant fell to the ground, rolled several times, and then became motionless. It seems that their main weakness is still there. Bede hadn't finished his analysis when he saw the dark attendant who had fallen down suddenly stand up and continue to run towards this side. Damn it! Pedro cursed secretly. The head of this thing is not fatal. However, judging from its actions just now, hitting the head should also cause a certain degree of damage. Otherwise it won't lie on the ground for a while. So to say. Bede's eyes moved down its spine. According to his biological knowledge that he has nothing to do these days, he learned it so that he can study his own ability by himself. He feels that the behavior of the dark servant just now should be a behavior similar to restarting the central nervous system. The central nervous system of normal organisms is composed of the brain and spinal cord, which is responsible for receiving incoming information from all over the body, and after integration and processing, it becomes a coordinated motor efferent. Simply put, it controls the activities of living things. The dark attendant basically conforms to the characteristics of a creature, and it stands to reason that it is almost the same. Its head was punctured, which must have affected the central nervous system to a certain extent, otherwise it would not have fallen to the ground. But the difference between it and ordinary organisms is that it seems to be able to temporarily transfer the control center to the spinal cord after the nervous system of the brain is damaged. In this way, regain the ability to stand up and move. In order to test this idea, Bede changed his angle, aimed at the dark servant whose head he had just shot, and pulled the trigger again. This time, he targeted the spine in the back. With a shuttle bullet hit the center of the spine. The dark servant fell to the ground again. This time, I didn't stand up for a long time. Bede confirmed this time that his idea was indeed correct. But after thinking about it carefully, he found that this discovery seemed to be of little use. If it's just the head, then with the frontal firepower, there is still a chance. Because many of the machine guns on the front are fully automatic machine guns controlled by the artificial intelligence Glio at the rear, and have their own aiming devices, which are much more accurate than manual shooting. But hit the spine on the back. Whether it is operated by humans or AI, it is too difficult. Looks like we can only go head-on, Pedro sighed. He sent his discovery to others, which was a wake-up call to others. After a few minutes, the time has come, close the barrier. Bede said to the communication equipment. The energy barrier not far away quickly closed. Some of the dark servants who just passed here were directly cut off, and only a section of their body was still crawling towards Bede and the others, leaving a long bloodstain behind them. At this time, surrounded by the energy barrier and the positions they built, there are about 400 to 500 dark attendants. This is their invite you into the urn tactic. First open the energy barrier, let these brainless dark servants in, and then use the position to form an effect similar to the urn city of Hangxia's ancient city, and then encircle and kill them. Each area is performing this operation in turn to ensure that the dark attendant has a place to go, so as not to hit the energy barrier everywhere. But at the same time, it retains a high killing efficiency. Pete shook his wrist, walked forward slowly, and gradually began to accelerate. Brothers and sisters, it's time to close the door and beat the dog, follow me. Roar. Long live Wakanda. Bede leads the way, followed by Dutch Spider, Phantom Woman, and Aussie Grace. Boom! Peter kicked his feet hard and leaped high. Clang! In midair, 4 sharp vibrating gold spider legs popped out from behind Bede. Like a cannonball, he crashed straight into the group of dark servants. SHHH! 2 laser beams shot out from the vibranium spider legs and penetrated directly through the heads of the 2 dark servants. At the same time, he punched out with his fist, smashing the head of a dark servant into pieces. Roar! A dark squire rushed toward Peter roaring. With a cold face, Bede turned slightly sideways, and the sharp vibrating gold spider legs pierced out behind him, directly piercing its head. Then, his body made a flexible leap in the air and landed on the back of the dark attendant. Boom! Punch down! The dark squire's spine was shattered. The horrific and bloody scene is eye-catching. But this is just the tip of the glacier on the battlefield at this time. After he entered the group of dark attendants, Dutch spiders and others also followed in. The scene immediately reached the most brutal stage of hand-to-hand combat. End of this chapter. Chapter 95 Infinity War. Chapter 95 Infinity War. The vibrating gold spider battlesuit raised Bede's defense to the extreme. Today, the only one who can break this suit and threaten him is Thanos, who has 4 infinite gems. Oh no, maybe the 4 obsidian generals under him can do it too. Because Thanos holds a metal that is rarer than vibrating gold, called Wooloo steel. In the original book, Thanos has a big knife called the Tyrant Butcher Knife. Its name is very middle class, but its power is very unusual. It can smash the American team's adamantium alloy shield with one knife. In addition, the weapons of General Deathblade and Proxima Centauri among the 4 generals of Obsidian are also extraordinary. The soul blade in General Deathblade's hand can easily pierce Vision's body, and Vision's body is also made of vibranium. The Dark Knight gun in the hands of his wife, Dark Knight Proxima Centauri, is equally powerful. Both are probably made of Wooloo steel. B knew that if he met them, he must be very careful. As for whether there is a dead ebony maw, and whether the giant scythe in Black Dwarf's hand is Wooloo steel, B doesn't know. The fact that ebony maw is dead will naturally be ignored. The giant scythe in the Black Dwarf's hand doesn't seem to be particularly expressive. That is to say, it smashed through several buildings with a casual throw. It feels like a big deal, but in Marvel, where superheroes and supervillains run around, is it like that? Whoosh whoosh. The 4 vibrating gold spider legs behind Beatty turned into 4 sharp spears. Relying on his vigorous posture, he walked through many dark attendants. In the temporary training this morning, the intelligence system has already completed the initial run-in with Bede by virtue of its excellent learning ability. Later, in the short period of actual combat just now, it went deeper. This makes the cooperation between the 2 more tacit. Every time it passes through a place, the vibrating gold spider legs will automatically find the head and spinal cord of the dark attendant with the help of the intelligence system to attack. Bede only needs to destroy the body balance of the dark attendant, so that the vibrating gold spider legs can attack more smoothly. All that's left to do is move on. Go ahead. Move on. Viscous blood was scattered all over the land. Under the efficient killing by Bede and others, these hundreds of dark attendants were quickly strangled to death. Later, Bede led a group of people back to the position. After a short rest, the next battle began. It's still the same. Open the barrier, cover it with long-range fire, close the barrier, and close the door for melee combat. From them alone, on average, nearly 1,000 dark servants can be killed every half an hour. There were 5 or 6 people doing the same thing at the same time as them. In other words, 5,000 to 6,000 dark servants will be wiped out on the entire battlefield in almost half an hour. On the Earth side, due to reasonable tactical arrangements and everyone's excellent equipment, the losses suffered were minimal. After several hours of fighting, there were only a few minor injuries. But the situation is still not optimistic. After killing a group of dark servants again, Bede retreated to his position and looked at the pile of corpses of the dark servants not far away with a solemn expression. Not only here, but also in other places, are now filled with corpses of dark servants. The number is so huge that you can even see it from a few kilometers away. In the past few hours, the number of dark servants who fell in Bede's position alone was 6,000 to 7,000. If you add up all the other places, it is estimated to be less than 100,000. But Bede looked outside the barrier and saw that the number and speed of the dark servants emerging from the obelisks did not decrease at all. Mr. Bede, I feel something is wrong. Dutch Spider took off the hood on his head and landed next to Bede. Bede nodded and asked, Ava, have you found out? Hey! The Dutch Spider looked around, but couldn't find the ghost woman. Where did Miss Ava go? Boss, there are indeed many machines here, running at full power, constantly crawling out these servants of darkness. Do you want to destroy them? Ava's voice came from the headset. At this time, Ava was in the obelisk closest to Bede's line of defense. More than 10 minutes ago, Bede noticed something was wrong, so he asked the ghost woman to investigate. The ghost girl's invisibility is indeed buggy. Not to mention the naked eye, even infrared detectors can evade it to a certain extent. With this ability, she easily crossed the battlefield, and entered the obelisk right under the eyes of thousands of dark attendants. "Hey!" Dutch Spider's eyes widened. Bede glanced at him indifferently and said, "Don't act rashly, I will come over. The strength of the Dark Emperor of the universe is not that simple." "Okay, boss," the ghost girl said, but then fell silent. Bede turned on the communication and uploaded the ghost woman's discovery to the team's public communication channel. "What are you going to do?" asked T'Challa, who was responsible for coordinating the overall situation from the rear. Different from the situation in the original book where he was a soldier roaring and killing at the front, here, T'Challa shouldered his responsibilities as the king and the commander-in-chief of the Wakanda army, and personally stood closest to the forward position to coordinate command. In fact, that's what he needs to do. A good command is much more important to a battle than a soldier. Bede replied, "I'm going to kill them and destroy their machines before it can be completely over. Otherwise, no one knows how many monsters they can create. We can only be exhausted to death." "I think Bede is right," Captain America's voice came from the communicator, still out of breath. It was obvious that he had just gone through a fierce battle. "This is obviously Thanos's plan. He wants to use these to mass-produce cheap monsters to consume our vitality. When we are tired, give us a head-on attack. We must completely destroy them before we can organize resistance. Can we directly cover one round with artillery shells?" Hawkeye asked the question. "You can try it, but it may not be useful," Falcon replied. "I got closer to check just now, and the defense level of the obelisk is a bit high. The energy barrier is protecting it, maybe it can only be destroyed from the inside." "Leave it to me," Bede said, "I'm the best at this kind of infiltration." "It's definitely not enough to rely on you alone, you don't have the means to effectively destroy the machine." Iron Man's voice came. "No, I have." Bede retracted the vibrating gold spider legs behind him, and walked towards the energy barrier. End of this chapter. Chapter 96 Infinite War Going Deep Behind Enemy Lines. Chapter 96 Infinite Warfare, Go Behind Enemy Lines. The obelisk is actually a landing capsule exclusive to the Dark Attendants, with a height of 160 meters when not unfolded, and 225 meters when unfolded. Usually they are mainly stored in the Q spaceship, the circular spaceship mentioned above, named because it looks like a Q letter, or the main ship of Thanos, the floating throne. When a landing operation is required, the Q spacecraft or the floating throne will eject them, use their hard outer shells, and directly land on the surface of the planet from the outer space of the planet, and use this to gather meteorites that are not inferior to falling meteorites. With huge kinetic energy, it can clear the enemy near the landing point in advance. Without Wakanda's energy barrier, just this one blow would be enough to cause heavy losses to the Earth's army. Each obelisk landing cabin carries thousands of dark attendants, as well as materials that can temporarily cultivate nearly dark attendants. From the inside, it is a honeycomb structure. There are densely packed holes on the four walls, and there is a culture medium in each hole. A robotic arm injects some genetic material into the culture medium, and then injects the corresponding culture medium. In less than 10 minutes, a dark servant with a height of 2 to 3 meters and 4 arms appears in the culture medium. Then, there are countless hanging hooks in the center, which will pull these fully developed dark servants out of the corresponding nests and place them on the ground. These dark attendants, who were born only 10 minutes ago, showed their amazing abilities at this moment. As soon as he landed, he joined the ranks of his companions and rushed out screaming. Bede was currently clinging quietly to the wall of an obelisk landing cabin. Next to him was the ghost girl Ava, and not far in front of the two of them was a row of beehive nests. One of the lairs has a dark servant already basically spawned. However, it has to be said that Ghost Woman's ability to collect information is indeed very powerful. It took less than half an hour from when he sent the ghost girl over to when he came here in person, and she had already collected so much information. I feel that if she is given more time, she can really get a good feel for this landing module. And this is still in the case of a language barrier, so many things that the ghost girl found can only be guessed. If this landing module uses the language of the Earth, maybe even Thanos's underwear can be taken off by him. Bede couldn't help being thankful that he rescued the ghost girl and was followed by her. "Have you found any suspected core components?" Bede asked. The ghost woman nodded, and pointed to the top of her head. "There is a cabin about 150 meters above the ground. I suspect that it is the main control cabin of this spaceship. But I can't get in. There is a special force field there. Shrouded, forcing a break-in may scare the snake." "It's okay, leave it to me," Bede said. "You leave here first, and I will leave the spaceship directly after my plan is successful, and I don't care about you." "Okay," the ghost girl nodded, and then she entered the invisible state with a flash. Bede also moved slightly, and the nanoparticles flowed, covering his face. "Call out." A strand of spider silk shot out and landed on the wall directly above, and Pedro followed the spider thread and began to climb up quickly. A few seconds later, he arrived at the place that the ghost girl said was 150 meters above the ground. What appeared in front of him was a tightly fitted metal ceiling, which looked out of place in this spaceship filled with honeycomb-shaped breeding chambers. But it was also because of this that it seemed even more suspicious. Pedro stretched out a finger and slowly approached the metal ceiling. When it was about 1 centimeter away, the spider sensor suddenly jumped. Then, a hazy light suddenly appeared. "It feels a bit like Wakanda's energy barrier, but that one is transparent and has a little light blue after activation, while the one in front of me is red. But there's no denying its dangers. You can't go wrong with spider sensing." Bede frowned and crawled to other places. Then, when he looked around everywhere, he found that they were all the same, and there was no flaw anywhere. "Since the soft ones are not enough, let's come hard ones." Swish! 4 vibrating gold spider legs popped out. Then, their tips began to glow slightly. A dazzling laser beam shoots out of it, focusing on the same spot. Hum! 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 A piercing siren sounded, and at the same time, the nearby walls began to glow red. Obviously this spacecraft is not without an alarm system, but only a small part of it. It's normal to think about it. There are thousands of dark attendants below, and it's not the core. What kind of alarm system does this need? And the core part above is protected by an energy barrier. But this also just confirmed Bede's guess. Here is the key to solving the problem. As the alarm sounded, the dark servants below rioted. The dark servants who had been rushing out as soon as they croaked to the ground parted out to patrol the obelisk landing cabin, as if they wanted to find Bede, the culprit who caused the alarm. However, Bede didn't care about them at all, and just clung to the wall closest to the metal ceiling with peace of mind, using the laser beams shot from the 4 vibranium spider legs to continue cutting the energy barrier at the core. Click! Hard work pays off. Wakanda's technology is still excellent. After more than 10 seconds of focused attack, a crack appeared on the energy barrier, and then it shattered. Bede, who had been prepared for a long time, clenched his fist and slammed his fist on the metal ceiling. The lines around here made him feel that this place should be a door, or something like an elevator. It didn't explode at first. Even if his strength reached more than 20 tons, he could not easily shake this thick metal plate. However, the force action is reciprocal. Every time he bombards, part of the power will be transmitted back from the metal ceiling and stored in the vibranium armor. When the earliest stored kinetic energy was about to reach the critical point of automatic release, Bede controlled the armor and punched directly. Boom! A thick metal plate was thrown up, Pedro's figure crashed into it and landed on the ground. Unexpectedly, there was no one inside, just a host that looked like a supercomputer. It seems that this is the mastermind who controls the entire obelisk landing module. Ava, can you counter-invade this mastermind and give an order to destroy it? Looking at this mastermind, Bede had other thoughts in his mind. The voice of the ghost woman came out, "Yes, give me some time." "About how long?" "At least half an hour. I need to understand the specific information inside first." "Forget it, we don't have that much time to delay." B stepped forward, clenched his fists, and with 2 bang-bang punches, he smashed the mastermind to pieces. End of this chapter. Chapter 97 Attack of the Floating Throne. Chapter 97 Attack of the Floating Throne. Hoo hoo hoo. Several roars came from outside. It turned out that the dark attendants had finally discovered Bede's trail, or it might be that Bede's behavior just now had triggered the automatic protection system of the mastermind of the obelisk landing module. In short, below, there were dozens of hooks that were supposed to land on the ground, but at this moment they changed direction and came to the high place here. Accompanied by the roar, a black shadow rushed in and went straight to Pete. Pete just retracted his hand, hammering the mastermind. With the help of the spider's induction, the body tilted slightly, and at the same time raised his knees, pushing the dark servant directly to the ceiling. Then, he shot out a spider thread, grabbed the dark attendant, and pulled it down forcefully. Bang! It collided with the second dark servant who rushed in. Shhhhhh. The vibranium spider legs stabbed the 2 dark servants like lightning, taking their lives. Afterwards, Peter returned to the main brain again, and picked up 2 half-meter square things that looked like computer motherboards. He suspects that this is the motherboard of this mastermind. Take it back to Shu Li and other technicians behind to study it, and maybe they can come up with a more efficient way to solve these things. After wrapping it with spider silk and tying it to his chest, Peter prepared to return the same way. The way back was not as easy as it was when we came. The signal released by the mastermind before it was destroyed by Bede caused the dark servants to rush here. If it weren't for the high hanging on the top of the obelisk landing cabin, there would be not many ways to go up. I'm afraid that Bede would be completely blocked at this moment. After carefully killing dozens of dark attendants, Bede ran along the wall to the bottom, which was the entrance where he entered the obelisk landing cabin. Along the way, he deliberately slowed down a bit, wanting to observe the reactions of the dark attendants in the landing pod after the main brain was destroyed. It was a bit invisible at first. But about a minute later, he discovered that many dark servants who were still incubating did not hatch successfully at all and died suddenly. Some of the dark attendants who were close to hatching successfully also suffered from large areas of disability and even death. This scene made Bede overjoyed. As expected, the entire hatching nest is controlled by the mastermind. Once the mastermind is destroyed, the entire hatching system will collapse. Endless. This is undoubtedly great good news. Sam. After getting the answer he wanted, B jumped out of the hiding place, and got out of the obelisk landing module in a few strokes. The dark attendants running outwards below have become his ladder. Coming! Falcon echoed. Immediately afterwards, his figure flew down from the sky, passing over Bede. Peter stretched out his hand and shot a thread, which just stuck to Falcon's body. Afterwards, the Falcon accelerated and climbed, and took him away from here, leaving only a group of dark attendants roaring in vain. Falcon is already familiar with the road. He also took away the ghost girl just now. It was just to bring the ghost woman near another obelisk landing cabin to help Bede find the way in advance for the next operation. The straight line distance between the 2 obelisk landing cabins is 4 to 5 kilometers. The actual distance is 2 or 3 times more. If you run by yourself, you will be exhausted. Even if there are vehicles such as vehicles, it is not easy to use them in this environment where you may encounter dark servants everywhere. With the assistance of air units, it is much easier, and these problems have also been solved together. Minutes later, B and Falcon landed where T'Challa was. The hood of the battlesuit was automatically retracted. Bede tore off the spider silk a few times, and handed 2 suspected motherboards to T'Challa. Shall I see what's the use of this thing? I removed it from the masterminds of those landing pods. Bede quickly stated his purpose. T'Challa nodded, and immediately ordered a guard to send it to the rear as quickly as possible. Bede, led by Falcon, went to the second obelisk landing module. However, the other party is obviously not a fool. Before Bede flew to the position, news came from the ghost woman. She has successfully sneaked into the obelisk landing cabin again, but now there is a large number of dark servants gathered inside. According to her observation just now, only some of the dark servants created during this period were sent out, while the rest stayed inside the landing cabin. For what? Self-evident. Do you want to continue? Falcon asked. Although Bede is very powerful, he also successfully destroyed an obelisk landing module. But that was when there was no preparedness. Now that people have preparedness, the degree of danger has greatly increased. He was not suggesting Pedro take the risk. Bede, come back and wait for Shuli's research. T'Challa also advised. He has also been paying attention to this side. Bede hesitated. For safety reasons, it is naturally best to wait for Shuli to study. He deliberately brought back 2 main boards for this reason. But researching this kind of thing, how can it be done in a while? It's bad. Shuli's voice suddenly sounded, a huge spaceship has appeared in outer space, and at the same time, thousands of Chitauri warships are approaching the Earth. What? People who heard the news were shocked. So those were just vanguards before? Now is the real hard dish? For a while, as long as there were free people, they all looked up at the sky. Meanwhile, outside the Earth's atmosphere, an interstellar battleship the size of an asteroid appeared here. Its huge figure almost completely covered the sun's light, and plunged most of the planet into darkness. It even overcomes the Roche limit of a rigid body between a giant celestial body and a giant celestial body, and just quietly suspends in the outer orbit of the Earth. This is Thanos' main ship. Floating throne. Terror, depression, panic, bewilderment. Countless negative emotions hang over the hearts of all people on Earth at this moment. Yes. The moment when Thanos' dark army really descends is an extremely dark moment that brings fear to the entire planet. This is definitely not a drama about fighting with someone in the wild. Every country in the world is in a certain degree of chaos at this moment. However, when they tried to contact the satellite to see what was going on, they found that there was no satellite at all. At this time, some cabins were opened on the floating throne. Bug-type motherships called Leviathans by the Chitauri drilled out of it, like dark clouds, covering the sky and rushing towards the Earth. There are also new landing modules, along with the appearance of the Leviathan battleships, tearing through the Earth's atmosphere, carrying a long tail of flames, and attacking the ground at high speed. The war is escalating at this moment and has entered a new stage. End of this chapter. Chapter 98 Temporary Departure. Chapter 98 Temporary Departure. Among the many Leviathan motherships, there are several Q-type spacecraft with rather peculiar shapes. These Q-shaped spaceships are something that only the respectable generals of the Dark Legion deserve to own. Based on the tip of the angle of attack, the height of the Q-type spacecraft reaches 240 meters. It uses a magnetic flywheel as the internal power system, running through the entire annular hull, and is equipped with an Alcubierre-type curvature engine, using curvature propulsion technology to achieve the purpose of traveling quickly between the stars. The biggest advantage of this Q-type spaceship is that its control system is very simple and can even be controlled by a single person. Ebony Maw was a single person in the movie, and was killed stupidly. However, it has no means of attack and does not carry any weapons. The only war use is to drop the obelisk landing module. A Q-type spaceship carries 5 of them, each with dark attendants standing in reserve and resources that can temporarily produce dark attendants. At the same time, the obelisk landing module can also be launched in a near-planetary orbit in outer space, using the gravity of the planet to cause a kinetic energy strike. In addition, tractor beams can also be used for rapid transport of personnel and materials. On the 4 Q-type spacecraft, at this moment, they correspond to the 4 generals of Supergiant, General Deathblade, Proxima Centauri, and Black Dwarf. But they weren't the only ones on the spaceship at this time. A group of Chitauri are busy among them, operating the spaceship. On the floating throne, Thanos sat on the throne with a golden knife, one hand on his chin, looked at the water-blue planet in front of him, and said lightly, "Conquer all countries and force them to hand over gems, otherwise, slaughter this planet." Yes. Countless Chitauri warships flew to various parts of the earth. Wakanda. Swish. A portal opens in front of Peter. Doctor Strange, Wanda and Vision walked out. As soon as he saw Bede, Doctor Strange said, "Thanos's dark army is approaching the Earth, and there may be some flaws in our plan." Bede's brows knitted together. He didn't understand how things would develop like this. The strength displayed by Thanos is more than 10 times higher than that seen in the movie. Where is this Infinity War? It is clearly a crushing invasion of high-dimensional civilization against low-dimensional civilization. What's your plan, Doctor? Bede looked at Doctor Strange, wondering. What he was even more curious about was why Doctor Strange came to him at this time. His current strength is indeed good. Spider-Man's superpower boosted his golden armor, which made his strength soar to the top of many superheroes. But to say that this can change the direction of an interstellar war is to think too highly of him. He can't even affect this local battlefield. Etc. B suddenly remembered something. Doctor Strange came to him now, wouldn't it be just for him to snap his fingers? I go. Is this thing still mandatory? How about looking for the Hulk? Or Thor? Bede cast a questioning look at Doctor Strange, who nodded firmly. Then, Doctor Strange stretched out his hand and handed 2 things to Bede. One is the Eye of Agamotto. The other one is something like a bracelet. Vision said, "This is the confinement device I commissioned Princess Shalai to make. Inside is the soul gem." Doctor Strange couldn't help but stuff 2 things into Bede's arms, and then said quickly, "Time is tight, there is no time to say more. Now that you know what you want to do, let's get started." Peter slowly made a question mark. On the other side, Doctor Strange has already started his actions on his own. I saw him quickly forming seals with his hands in front of him, and then making a tearing movement in front of him. Beside him, Wanda also made the same movement with her hands, and the red magic power was added to the magic cast by Doctor Strange. Ka. Collapse. After the 2 merged into one, the pressure on the space in front of him became greater and greater, until at a certain moment, it could no longer bear it and completely shattered. A chaotic realm appeared in front of several people. Doctor Strange maintained the Chaos Gate with both hands, and said to Bede, who was still in a confused state, "There is a time coordinate on the Eye of Agamotto. Remember, no matter how long you stay in other worlds, when you return to this world, you can use this time coordinate to return to this moment. The future of this world depends entirely on you." Wait. Peter's eyes widened. "So, this is what you saw? Hey? Otherwise?" Doctor Strange looked at Bede doubtfully, seeming very puzzled. Soon, the 2 looked at each other, and both realized that the other party seemed to have misunderstood. But now is not the time to reminisce. This time Bede understood what Doctor Strange meant. Because the Thanos of this world has been strengthened at the epic level, only with the current strength, the winning rate is too low and too low. But there is a variable among them. That's Bede. Bede can travel to other worlds at will, and according to Doctor Strange's observations, his travel is a legal act. That is to say, as long as Bede does something, no matter how much impact it has on this world, it will become the real history of this world, rather than changing history that will lead this world to destruction. This is the key to Bede's recognition by Doctor Strange. He's a legitimate time traveler. Activate your unique power, and you will be able to find the space-time tunnel, put your strong thoughts in it, and you will be able to open the door to the corresponding world. The moment before Bede stepped into the Chaos Gate, Doctor Strange spoke. Pedro nodded. Then, he took back the nanovibranium spider suit, hung the Eye of Agamotto around his neck, and stepped into the Gate of Chaos with the Mind Gem bracelet on his wrist. There was a whisper. The whole world fell into a silence like returning to ruins. Sound, air, light, time, space, everything loses its original meaning here. Pedro took a deep breath, but suddenly felt a sense of comfort like a fish in the sea. Quantum energy began to pour into his body continuously, filling up all the previous consumption. After replenishing the quantum energy, Bede looked around. Because the time and space coordinates on the Eye of Agamotto allowed him to return to the starting point at any time, he was not so anxious. Looking at the quantum realm around him, he felt a desire to explore it. However, when he stretched out his hand to touch the outer wall of this quantum space that seemed to belong to him alone, the spider sensor suddenly jumped wildly. The intensity even gave him a splitting headache. What happened? End of this chapter. Chapter 99 Gwen. Chapter 99 Gwen. There are great horrors in the quantum realm. Bede trembled and retracted his outstretched hand. The crazy jumping spider sensor is telling him this information. If he goes out from here at this time, it may cause some immeasurable consequences. What exactly is in the quantum realm? A question occupied Bede's mind. He couldn't help but think of the expression she showed when she mentioned the quantum realm when he met the first wasp a few days ago. She must know something. It's a pity that he can't go back and ask now. Although I don't know how Doctor Strange turned the Eye of Agamotto into a space-time beacon, Bede knows that this must have a lot to do with the time gem inside. But this method shouldn't be done casually, otherwise time and space wouldn't be in chaos. To save that world, maybe there is only this one chance. Just like in the original plot, there is only one chance to come back from ruin and Iron Man snaps his fingers. Fortunately, his is much more peaceful now. No need for him to snap his fingers. Just need to find reinforcements. But where should we find these reinforcements? Bede's first reaction was to find the partners who had fought side by side in Ultimate Universe. Although their time together was short, they formed a very deep friendship. However, it was difficult for Bede himself to ask them to cross the world to participate in this interstellar war that might cost their lives. Got it. After thinking for a while, Bede's eyes lit up. Since the upright is hard to attack, what about the villain? Go to various worlds, collect some villains who are not doing well in this world, or are simply about to die, and form them into a cross-universe super army? As for the question of betrayal, this one is very simple. Because from the previous situation, illegal crossing will be rejected by the non-native universe, that is, quantum collapse. The longer the time, the more serious the quantum collapse phenomenon will be, and it will die in the end. And he who has quantum energy can solve this problem. It's like curing the ghost woman's quantum disease, for those people. So these people brought by him from other universes need his quantum energy to continue their lives. His life is in his hands, so why not let him decide? Of course, some villains with ideals and aspirations are not ruled out, and they are not even afraid of death. Wouldn't it be over if Bede didn't find them? After making up his mind, Bede gathered quantum energy in his hands. This is the method Doctor Strange taught him, so that he can perceive the situation of the target world in the quantum realm, and open the quantum channel corresponding to the world according to the thoughts in his heart. Everything that happened a few days ago was like a dream. In a world where no one knows me and I don't have to be spurned every day, I spent 10 wonderful days. That was probably the most uneventful and most comfortable 10 days since I acquired this ability. I enjoyed a peaceful campus life, met a group of lovely people, played and fought with them, and fought side by side with them. And he said that he would take me away from this dirty reality, go to a wider world, and see more beautiful scenery. I thought that I could wait firmly with anticipation, but now I find that it is really difficult. When you feel the warmth and then fall into the dark and cold abyss again, that kind of feeling is almost unbearable. Bear. Clang. The bright copper-colored cymbal was struck heavily, and the harsh sound broke the girl's contemplation. Gwen, you're distracted again. Gwen raised her head, and a black-haired girl with an afro appeared in front of the drum set, accusing unceremoniously. Her tone was a little aggressive, but actually there was some concern in her expression. Her name is Glory Grant, and she is the guitarist of the band. She is always cold-faced and warm-hearted. There are two girls with musical instruments in each hand. The brown-haired one is Mary Jane Watson, the lead singer of the band, and the other short-haired one is Betty Brant. The four of them formed a rock band called Mary Jane's. Now is the time for a rehearsal. But obviously, a girl who was distracted made some mistakes in this rehearsal again, so she was about to face accusations from her teammates. Or maybe something else. Gwen, what's the matter with you? Why are you always absent-minded recently? Where did you go the other day? Mary Jane Watson asked. Yeah, Gwen, you have something, but you have to tell us what happened. In fact, it doesn't happen in the past few days. You have always been like this since a long time ago, often when we agreed late for rehearsals, sometimes even absent. Don't you love music anymore? Have you forgotten the vows we made? Betty Brant put her hands on the cymbal on one side, looked into Gwen's eyes, and asked. Gwen bit her lip and said nothing. She also knew that she was not in the right state. She has been like this since Peter died. Because of his death, she realized the responsibility she shouldered with this ability, and it also made her take more pains to hide herself. In fact, rather than saying that she realized her responsibility, it is better to say that she is atoning for sin with a sense of guilt. She is scared. She felt that she was the one who killed her best friend. So, she used this ability that killed her best friend to fight crime to make up for the loneliness in her heart. Why don't you tell us? Aren't we best friends? Glory Grant asked. Is there something wrong with your body? Mary Jane Watson also asked concerned. I don't know which sentence stimulated Gwen. She suddenly raised her head, and said bluntly, I'm fine. Thank you for your concern. There is nothing wrong with my body. People who are in good health don't talk like this, Glory Grant said. Normal people should say, I'm fine, thank you and so on. I'm fine, thank you. Gwen stabbed again, stood up, and picked up the clothes on the side. What about you? Well, of course I'm fine, Glory Grant replied. There was a puff of breath in Gwen's chest, and he walked straight out. Every second she stayed in this depressing world where no one could understand her made her feel depressed. Maybe this is the past. Honestly, I don't understand you. Obviously. Gwen pushed open the door to the rehearsal venue. The world in front of her was full of people coming and going, but with a gust of wind blowing by, she still felt lonely. It was obviously warm sunshine, but it was like a layer of black veil, covering her heart, constantly adding layers of haze to her. Are you sure it's her? In a building not far away, two figures stood in front of the window, looked at Gwen, and said. Is her? Pretty close. End of this chapter. Chapter 100 Father and Daughter. Chapter 100 Father and Daughter. After getting off the crowded subway, Gwen returned home in silence, unaware that she had been targeted. Along the way, previous scenes always appeared in her mind unconsciously. Peter was placed in foster care with his parents at the age of 5, and the two became very good friends. That is childhood sweetheart. They were supposed to grow up together, and even if they went their separate ways, they would still be like family, spending Christmas together and chopping turkey together. Until that happened. Peter is dead. Wearing a spider suit, she was witnessed by her father who came after him and killed Peter, thus being charged with murder. After going upstairs along the fire escape, she saw a familiar figure through the window. Gwen's hand on the window paused for a moment. She really didn't know how to face him. This man that I love and hate at the same time. He is gentle, brave, and kind. He is the best sheriff in New York, but he is also the one who witnessed the truth of Spider-Woman killing Peter Parker. That was also the beginning of pushing her life into an abyss. Alas, after sighing softly, Gwen opened the window and got in. "You're back," the man asked without looking back. "How was the exam?" "Well, that's fine," Gwen replied casually. "I quit the band." With that said, she pushed open the door and entered her bedroom. She really didn't know how to communicate with her father. George Stacy came to the bedroom door in a few steps, looked at his daughter's back, and said, "There has been a breakthrough in the Spider-Woman case." Gwen paused for a moment before replying, "Ah, that's good." George Stacy took a step forward and said, "I think we need to have a talk." Gwen ignored him. To be precise, she didn't know how to answer. At least, on the topic of Spider-Woman, she really didn't know how to have a good talk with him. Seeing this, George Stacy continued, "Gwen, I think it would be good for us to talk." "Okay, but I don't think so." Gwen held back a sentence after a long time. George Stacy only thought that his daughter was still immersed in the grief of losing a good friend. He knew the relationship between his daughter and Peter, and even he regarded Peter as half a son. Since Peter was killed by Spider-Woman, his baby daughter has become increasingly depressed, and now even quits her favorite rock band. Naturally, he linked the two things together. This also made him very worried. But what he didn't know was that the two things were indeed related, but not the kind of relationship he thought. "But she killed your friend." Relying on his intuition as a police chief for many years, George Stacy felt that something was wrong with his daughter, but he couldn't tell what was wrong. Gwen said without looking back, "Did you see that?" "Of course. She was there. Then she fled there, on the run." George Stacy said. Gwen tried to defend herself. Maybe she had no choice but to run away. "But it's my job," George Stacy replied. "Okay." Gwen yelled, "But it won't bring him back to life either." George Stacy opened his mouth, not knowing what to say. He felt as if he had screwed up. Good talk becomes bad talk. After a long time, he reorganized his words. "I don't want to argue about this, okay? I want to say, maybe you can be like a child and let Daddy." A figure crashed into his arms and hugged him tightly. After George Stacy was stunned for a moment, he realized that he held his daughter in his arms behind his back. Feeling his father's warm embrace, Gwen's heart gradually calmed down. Unconsciously, I thought of the man who said he would take her to see many world scenery. I wonder where you are now and what you are doing. Gwen thought to herself and closed her eyes. The City Museum has a police report, please leave as soon as possible. At this moment, the pager in George Stacy's pocket rang, breaking the rare warm moment between father and daughter. The two let go of each other. After George Stacy comforted Gwen a few more words, he turned around, picked up his clothes and guns, left home, and headed towards the City Museum. Upstairs, Gwen turned and went back to her room after watching her father drive away. Wipe away the tears that are about to well up. Pack up your mood. Now it's Spider-Gwen. Call out. A vigorous figure appeared among the buildings in New York. After a few minutes, Gwen appeared on the building not far from the City Museum. The City Museum of New York City is a fairly well-known landmark. It is located at the junction of 5th Avenue and 103/104 Street, and it was born specifically to record the history of New York. It has a collection of about 300 million cultural relics from the Dutch colonial era to the present, ranging from toys to prints, from dance halls to theaters, and so on. On the 5th floor of the museum, there is also a Rockefeller exhibition room, which imitates the luxurious master bedroom and dressing room of the old Rockefeller. It is precisely because of its importance and value that the City Museum is surrounded by vehicles at this moment. Police cars, fire trucks, ambulances, and police helicopters in the sky. It can almost be said that the City Museum is completely surrounded. What happened? Who is inside? Gwen changed several angles, trying to see the scene inside through the side window of the city museum, but saw nothing. On the street below, George Stacy had also arrived. As soon as he got out of the police car, someone came up and told him about the intelligence he had gathered. You mean, there's a weird guy dressed in the Renaissance period staying in the museum now? George Stacy looked at the capable subordinate in front of him in surprise. The other party nodded and handed over a photo. Look, this is the photo I took not long ago. George Stacy picked up the photo and looked at it, and found that it was a grey-white man with a hooked nose, but he had no hands, but a pair of wings. On the whole, it looks like a vulture. Yes, it's a vulture. It's just that the material looks weird, as if it's made of paper. George Stacy was about to say something. Sudden boom. A loud explosion sounded. An extremely violent shock wave surged out of the museum, almost knocking George Stacy and his subordinates to the ground. Not far in front of them, several police officers who were relatively close to the museum were directly knocked out by the shock wave, and fell to the ground without knowing their lives. End of this chapter. Like and subscribe.